for young people. I take very seriously the findings of the recent report by Alan Milburn. We need a complete rethink of how we support the next generation to succeed, and it has to start with the education system. The days of a school system configured entirely around the university route will be brought to an end. University is great for those who want it, but when are we going to focus on the life chances of those kids who want something different? When? The country hasn't done that for a long, long time. People have argued over many years for an education system based on parity between academic and technical, and that is what we will build, giving every young person growing up here a clear path into a re-industrialised Britain. Where young people need mental health support, it should be provided as part of in-work support. And we will answer the call from the mayors, and particularly the Mayor of the North East, for devolution of employment support and changing the way we support and sustain people employment, working much more through our community and voluntary sector at a grassroots level, working with organisations people trust to help them, rather than going to places that they fear. This is the difference that the mayors can make, and in doing that, we will reduce the welfare bill in a way that is fair and lasting and helps people move forward. Another way to do that is by repairing the public housing stock. Britain has lost almost 1.5 million council homes since the 1980s, and around the same number of people are now on housing waiting lists and have been there for a very long time. As a result, the country is in a housing trap. We are forced to chase rents in the private rented sector through the benefits system. When governments try to control these costs by freezing local housing allowance, it makes families homeless and places unfunded pressures on councils when they have to pay for temporary accommodation. Britain's housing crisis is having a ruinous impact on its public finances. So, working with local areas, Number 10 North will oversee the biggest council house building programme since the post-war period. We will use public land, vacant public land, to reduce costs. Let me just take you back to when I grew up here in the 1970s, and Steve Rotherham and I have written about this in a certain book. But when we were growing up here, amongst the friends we had at school, there were two things that were the foundations of working class aspiration. A council home, a secure home that was the foundation for everything, and then good technical education. And those things have been taken away in the decades since. So no wonder so many young people struggle to make it work and then don't make it work. Don't blame them. Blame ourselves. We haven't been giving people this stability, this ability to get on in life. And it's time we did and brought back working class aspiration, the chance of somebody growing up here to be everything that they can be. And that's what we'll do. And also make this a city where no one has to leave to get on in life, or any of the other cities represented here today. That's what this new era is going to be all about, a sense of hope, of possibility, that things are achievable that you might not have thought were before. And having this focus on council homes again and building them in all parts of the country, it will represent a decisive shift to a more preventative, productive state, adopting a national housing first philosophy, as has been pioneered so successfully in Finland. If you don't give people a good home, what chance have they got of having a good life? What chance of making the health service sustainable if people are not living in good accommodation or getting a good education for kids? Everything starts with a good home, and this country finally has to put that at the top of its priority list. Through this new approach, we will bring higher density residential development to our towns, and Number 10 North will be able to support all places to turn around those towns, their high streets and the local centres, increasing footfall on the high street and protecting more green spaces from development. To reinforce that, we will reform business rates to support pubs and high street businesses, businesses that bring social benefits to communities. And let me finish by saying this. Rather than being a marker of decline, shouldn't we make our high streets the new symbol of Britain's renaissance? Ours is a 10-year mission to raise people's living standards. I know people can't wait forever for change. I heard on doorsteps in Makerfield how people need a bit extra now to help with rising costs. I will do my very best to deliver it, and whilst not taking risks with the public finances, will seek to give Britain some breathing space as soon as I can. People need to be able to look forward to a night out or a holiday with the kids. People need hope. This brings me back to where I started and the stories told in this building of how ordinary people, right back to Peterloo 200 years ago here, changed a British state not built with them in mind. Our modern challenge is exactly the same. An economy which, from the mid-1980s onwards, has not been built with them in mind and instead has handed more to those who already have most and left people overpaying for the basics. If people in 1844 could form the cooperative movement in Rochdale to lower the price of food, then why can't we act now with similar courage to make life better? Imagine what things could be like if we succeed. Imagine what it would feel like to live in a country wired to work for ordinary people rather than against them. Imagine if all local areas could build homes people can afford to the point where they could guarantee one for everyone. Imagine if we could bring down the cost of energy for people and businesses and the good things that would come from that. Imagine good growth in every postcode and hope in every heart. I'll say it again. Imagine good growth in every postcode and hope in every heart. Well, imagine no more. Let's make it happen.
And there was Andy Burnham, currently the only man on the ballot to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, giving his speech at the People's History Museum in Manchester and facing no questions from the press in the audience.
Yeah, interesting, Tom, isn't it? Fascinating that someone that sells himself as a great communicator, very keen to talk to people, refuses to take any question, but saying a lot of things people wanted to hear. We will concentrate on housing. So everybody has a house, like he had when he was a child. Didn't mention his dad was a toolmaker, thankfully. We've passed that one now. Utilities, all publicly owned. Also, the Labour proposed to build 1.5 million new homes, the amount we are missing. Major reform of the education system. Lots and lots of things that people are wanting to hear, expressing it very well. Very interesting that he kept using the word imagine. Anyone else want to burst into a John Lennon sing, or was that just me?
It did seem a little bit Lennonite rather than Leninite. And perhaps that's a blessed relief for people that were worried about the creeping nationalisation. But let's discuss this with another Andy. Indeed, another former mayor. Yes, the former mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. Thanks indeed for being with us.
I've got a suit and tie, no T-shirt, no black T-shirt.
How are your eyelashes doing? More mascara probably needed there. What did you make of it, Andy? I mean, you've been there, you've been a mayor, you are called Andy.
He didn't really say anything, did he? He said all the nice stuff that, of course, everyone believes in having more housing, especially social housing. Everybody believes in a more balanced economy. Everyone believes in greater opportunity. But what are you going to do about it? Now, what he will say, he'll say that, well, look at my record, Mayor of Greater Manchester. The people keep saying that the growth was as strong as or even stronger than London's. That's largely a myth. OK? Greater Manchester's population boomed. It grew by 250,000 people in the last 10 years. That's the size of Southampton. They bolted on an economy the size of Southampton onto their city. That drove their economic growth. Per head, nobody is better off in Manchester. Now, I'm not criticising Andy Burnham. I think he's an intelligent guy. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's an effective politician. But what we have to be clear is that the skyscrapers that have gone up are largely student blocks. Unemployment has gone up, average wages haven't gone up, and there are more kids in poverty.
But I've been going to Manchester for, I don't know, at least 10, 15 years, on and off. I've seen the difference in those streets. I mean, the little independent coffee shops that have popped up, the streetscaping, just visiting that place, even compared to a decade or so ago, it does feel like it is. It's certainly in the centre, maybe not around the outskirts, but certainly in the centre of Manchester, it does feel like a better place than it used to.
The centre is infinitely better. It was always a great city, and now it is a brilliant city centre. It's got its challenges with visible homelessness and drug dealing, but it's a fantastic city. But that's not Andy Burnham, and I can prove it to you. So if you go about 150 miles, 200 miles north, in a straight line up from there, you reach Glasgow, Greater Glasgow. Greater Glasgow doesn't have an elected mayor, doesn't even have devolution in the same way. That economy has become more productive and more effective than Manchester's without Andy Burnham, without even having a mayor. If you go 200 miles, 250 miles south, you'll hit the Bristol urban area. They call it West of England. There's a metro mayor there. They have done at least as well economically as Manchester, despite not having the same devolution deal. So I'm not saying Andy Burnham is to blame for all the bad stuff, but I certainly don't think that he's to be credited with the good stuff. It's an historical accident that the growth there started 20 years ago. The population has boomed, and much of the growth he talks about relates to that.
And there's a lot that has been written about the leader of Manchester City Council and some of those city council leaders who have been the driving forces behind
20, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and the longevity of their tenure, but also their ability to work with the private sector and not have the same boondoggles attached to projects of construction of those skyscrapers.
Totally, and I'm quite a nerd when it comes to this stuff. So I've compared Greater Manchester with West Midlands, Andy Street's patch. Similar stories, you know, both arguably vying for second city for Britain in terms of size and economy. Manchester's industry imploded before the West Midlands and imploded harder. So Manchester was like more of a bomb site economically. So rebuilding was much easier. So it rebuilt much faster. So it has outpaced the Birmingham, West Midlands area, but it hasn't outpaced Glasgow. It hasn't outpaced the Bristol area. Andy Burnham is not the driver of Manchester's apparent success.
The one question every journalist listening in that audience would have loved to ask, but obviously no one got the opportunity, is this all sounds fantastic. More apprenticeships for youngsters, more council homes, our public funding of the utilities, etc., etc. Nobody was told how any of this was going to be afforded. The stories this morning that there was going to be property tax, capital gains tax increase, a new inheritance tax, more borrowing. How is any of what he's promised going to be funded?
So there are only three ways, Dawn, to get the money. So if your economy grows spectacularly, without penalising anyone, you get more money in and tax it. So that's great, which is what happened in the Blair years. There was a global boom going on. So you can raise money by being lucky with global growth. You can raise money by taxing people, which is painful, it's unpopular, and probably damages your medium term. Or you can make cuts. Cuts are painful, unpopular, and usually cost you politically. I will bet we don't get loads of growth. I will bet that Andy Burnham doesn't want to make big cuts, so it's probably going to come down to taxes, isn't it?
But isn't that breaking Labour's manifesto? It comes back to, does he have the mandate to govern? Because he wasn't elected as an MP when Labour came in with that manifesto. He has said he's not going to break any of those promises, which means he's going to stick to what Keir Starmer's doing. That's not going to work. So we're still... Is he going to break the manifesto pledges?
I think he is. I think they've already broken them, to be honest, Dawn. I think that what they did was they were very careful. They blurted something out and then spent, the last 3 years trying to backtrack and cover. So in the end, they clarified it as no taxes on working people.
And interpreted that liberally.
Absolutely right. At the end of the day, before the last election, the IFS, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, which is not aligned with any party, said whoever wins this election, Tories or Labour, taxes are going up. And they did. Well,
Andy Preston, thanks indeed for being with us. We're going to head straight back to Manchester now. In the heart of the People's History Museum is our very own political editor, Christopher Hope. Christopher, take it away.
Hi Tom, I'm joined now by Noah Law, who's MP in Cornwall. Noah Law, what does Andy Burnham say for the whole country?
Andy's putting hope back into politics and he's putting people first. This is about starting with what we have at the grassroots level and building up from that, not being dictated to by Whitehall.
Is that what's happening here? It feels like a Greater Manchester takeover our country by an unelected, barely there MP.
What we're seeing is the shifting of power out of Westminster. Andy knows exactly how to do that. He's done it with Manchester and he can do it again for bits of the country like mine down in Cornwall.
He's just left by that door by a car very quickly, not taking any questions from the journalists. He hasn't answered any questions really since election day. Why is this?
I think he's certainly set out a lot of clarity around the vision, right? It's about rewiring Whitehall. It's about doing fiscal devolution. That's really important. That's central to how we get growth back in this country, because you've got to start with the real world out there and real people, not with imaginary kind of policy wonk theories up in Whitehall. He absolutely gets it.
And what's his mandate for doing this? He talked then about public control of the water, utilities, energy, a massive council house programme. That's a lot of money. Where's the money going to come from?
So as Andy said, we're going to stick to the fiscal rules. A lot of this again is about devolving power and investment rather than just creating, that's how you unlock it, because at the minute it's simply tied up in Whitehall, a lot of this public investment. I've seen that myself, trying to get that power and investment down to Cornwall, having to go all the way up the line for even the smallest things. It makes no sense, and Andy's going to turn that on its head.
But money's tight, isn't it? That's why it's so hard to borrow money. I mean, did you know what the fiscal rules are?
Yeah, money is tight, and obviously we've got our commitment still to bring borrowing down by the end of Parliament, and we've got our commitment to not borrow to fund day-to-day expenditure, and actually we can very much keep to that because we've already unlocked the possibility for a lot of capital expenditure, and that's what a lot of this is going to rest on.
He talked there about a number 10 of the North. Where will he live in number 10 Downing Street?
I suspect he'll be there a fair bit, as he's actually mentioned London quite a bit in his speech as well. London too is struggling with a lack of power to change things like the housing system locally. I mean, we need every corner of the country. It includes London, it includes Cornwall, it includes the North, it includes the devolved nations as well. That's what this speech today was all about.
Is that why you're here as a Cornish MP, to show the rest of the country he cares about them too? Because currently it feels like a coup made in Manchester.
Well, he's spoken a lot about rural affairs as well in this speech as well, which, as you can imagine, is a delight to someone like myself that's been campaigning on farming, on fisheries, on all of those rural issues that actually people think, do they get it up in Manchester and London? I think Andy gets it.
And Noah Law, he thinks it will stay within the confines of that July 2024 manifesto, but there are things in there I don't recall being in there, like taking public control of the water, utilities, energy. That wasn't in the manifesto. And if so, he must have an election, surely.
No, I think obviously public control of the water system, for example, it wasn't in the manifesto, but nor was it even addressed as an issue issue at all.
That's why you have an election.
That's it. But we didn't say anything about it one way or the other, and that's what's been so frustrating for people. They want us to address that elephant in the room of public control of the utilities. And yes, we've done a lot of good work to regulate the sector, slap fines on underperforming companies, but actually people want us to address that elephant in the room and say have an honest conversation about what the costs and benefits of public control are.
But the scale of spending set out there by Andy Burnham will alarm some people. Will he be Labour's Liz Truss?
No, that's not what we're talking about here, Chris, because as said, we're going to have to get to the detail, we're going to stick to the fiscal rules, but this is a signal of a North Star, if you will, a direction of travel, and now Andy has to bring forward the plans within all of those constraints that we've set out. We know we're living in a very constrained world, but as said, even when you look at the fiscal rules, there is a lot of scope there for more capital investment, even though we're not able to necessarily spend on day-to-day expenditure in the way that some governments.
And just finally, he mentioned Germany and borrowing like Germany, didn't he? And they have borrowed a lot, haven't they? So it's a feeling you can borrow more to invest, and it won't scare the bond markets.
I mean, let's be honest, Germany had a bit more fiscal space than we do, but the reality is, again, our rules allow us to accelerate capital investment in a way that they simply don't with what you call revenue investment. So we've got to work within those constraints, but there's a heck of a lot more that we can do.
And just finally, no plans for a general election to give this a degree of democratic accountability?
I wasn't planning on it. I'm a very busy man. There's lots to do down in Cornwall, so we've just got to get on and deliver on all of those things that I set out to do in 2024 and that my colleagues across the country have set out to do. Now let's just get on with it and unleash our local ability to deliver.
Noah Law, thank you. Noah Law there, of course, a Cornish Labour MP. I find it interesting, of course, that a spokesman for the Andy Burnham team here is from Cornwall. I think that's because the party clearly recognises they can't always have Greater Manchester MPs telling us about their plans for government. It looks a bit like a Manchester takeover.
Mr. Hope, thank you very much indeed. They're at the heart of where it's all happening this afternoon. We couldn't, of course, have any questions for the Mayor of Greater Manchester, but at least we got Noah Law MP. Thanks very much.
Indeed. Thank you, Christopher. And as always on this one, please do let us know your thoughts at gbnews.com/. Many of you are. Many who live in Manchester as well are saying that sounds like the same old rhetoric, only in a nice northern accent. And Tommy is echoing a point that many of you are making. No mention of immigration or illegal immigration,
that's a point.
Which is one thing that we know people in that red wall in the north do worry about. They are concerned. No mention of that one at all.
Shall we get some more on this now with the former Mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston, still with us in the studio? Interesting, just on that first point that Christopher Hope raised, there is a risk that people across the country, north, south, east and west, I mean, different countries of the country that Labour lost in the local elections, Scotland, Wales, might think, is this all just going to come from Manchester? Interesting that Noah Law MP down from Cornwall was who Andy Burnham's team decided to get up on the airwaves.
Yeah, absolutely. This is being pitched as the north's really poor and the south's really rich. And, of course, it's nonsense, isn't it? There are desperately, desperately poor people in London, Cornwall, everywhere.
And there are footballers' wives in Greater Manchester.
Of course there are. That's exactly right. They probably have spray tans and big lips and all the rest of it in Greater Manchester.
That's enough about Thomas.
So the truth is, there are really rich people, really poor people everywhere. Most people are in the middle. But the north has slightly more poorer people who are struggling, and the south has slightly more well-off people. So to present it as two separate places is nonsense. To exclude Cornwall, the poorer people of Bristol, the West Midlands, is offensive. Now, there's a danger. So what we're doing is we're saying that UK or Britain or England in particular is too centralised. We're saying London is too big and dominates. That's a good point, and we have to work out how to deal with it. Is the answer shipping more power to Manchester? Because at least about Manchester, and Tom said, the city centre has improved a lot. It was a great city, and now it's a brilliant city, definitely. That has not come free of charge. It has sucked in the energy, the commerce, the vibrancy and the money from punters in the surrounding towns, proper towns, Rochdale, Oldham, Bolton. They have Wigan. They have all struggled massively because more people now go to Manchester to shop, to eat, for leisure.
But on the flip side of that, you can now much more easily live in one of those towns outside of Manchester, commute into the centre for your job, commute back home on the buses, on the tram, whatever, and have a higher standard of living because the jobs pay more in the centre than they would ever do in a smaller town outside. I suppose there's an argument here that if that model can be replicated, for example, Leeds is the largest city in Europe without a mass public transport system. Government after government, Labour and Conservative, have promised Leeds a tram for decades, since before I was born, and it still hasn't been delivered. This current Labour government promised it and then kicked it into the 2030s. In Spain and in France, it's local authorities who lead these projects. They don't have to go with a begging bowl to the central treasury in London to say, please, can I have a tram? They just get on and build it. And when the local authority builds it, like in Madrid, the Madrid Metro is one of the most impressive transport systems in the world. It's huge and they add to it almost every year. Entirely funded by the Madrid region. They don't have to go to central government for the money. And because it's paid for in that local region, there's less bloat. They care more about the I suppose, the cents, the euros and the cents, and the pounds and the pence. They care more about that because ultimately they don't have the trillion-dollar balance sheets that the Treasury does. They have a local balance sheet.
Tom, isn't there? In the UK, we are just dreadful. Anything to do with infrastructure, it takes 5 times longer, costs 10 times as much. Now, if we look back to the Victorian era, I know none of us were around, and even the Edwardian era, so the early, 1900s, trams. There were trams every blooming where, all over England, Scotland and Wales, and they were cheap and they were quick and they were paid for locally. Now we are so fussy, so scared, we have so much health and safety, we are so cautious, we can't do it. The reason Leeds hasn't got it is because it's so damn expensive.
And Leeds had one of the first tram systems in the world.
Indeed.
It was whipped out, I think, in the 1960s, and they haven't been able to
They
get it
literally
back.
tore the tracks up off the road. Absolutely right. So Leeds does deserve it, but it's horrendously expensive. I don't see that Andy Burnham, with his Manchesterism, is going to make any difference to that. I do not see that at all.
It's very interesting. The other big talking point was the housing trap we're all in, the biggest council house building project since post-war boom. That's what Andy Burnham is promising. Now, Labour also said that in the manifesto they came in saying we are going to build 1.5 million new homes in England in the 5 years we were in power for the first term. That's not going well. They've barely struggled to build 300,000.
Dawn, they're going to get nowhere near the 1.5 million.
So how's Andy going to make any difference?
Well, I would bet you £5 that he won't make much difference with his council housing, because it's the easiest thing to say. You get a round of applause. To be honest, 3-4 years later, the public have forgotten. They've moved on. As a politician, you're talking about something else. If your job is to cut ribbons and announce projects, which is what a Metro Mayor does, that's what Andy Burnham's done for, is it 8 years he's done it? Then you are used to making announcements. You don't really have to deliver that much.
Last year, London built about 6% of its annual housing target. I mean, London is the single biggest failure point when it comes to housing in the country, and it's also the point of the highest need, the biggest city, the highest land values. Interestingly, Manchester has built more homes, particularly in the centre, even though the land values are lower. Now, normally you'd expect where the land values are higher, you get more construction. There's an argument that because the towers that have gone up in Manchester haven't had any social housing required of them, that developers have been more likely to build there, whereas Sadiq Khan in London has demanded 35% social housing for every... I mean, that's effectively an extra 35% tax on all new construction. It's no wonder it's collapsed. In some ways, that's quite a right-wing thing that Andy Burnham has presided over. If that model is applied countrywide, no social housing attached to any new development obligations, that could build a lot more housing. It's just it won't be social.
Absolutely right. If you look at Japan and other places, they can build 3 times as many homes in half the time. London is absolutely paralysed by lack of building. Not only does it make rents and things expensive, it stops London from growing. Now, London remains and will be for our lifetimes the engine of our whole economy. If London doesn't do really well, we don't do really well. And London is being held back because it can't grow, because there aren't enough homes. So we need more homes, we need them everywhere, and absolutely right, the requirements on social housing, the requirements on staircases, the health and safety, the this, that and the other is a massive barrier. It's completely unaffordable in most cases to now bring forward residential development. It's absolutely unaffordable.
Andy, thank you so much for that. It's Andy Preston, former Mayor of Middlesbrough there. Another one, Andy, Mayor. There's a theme going on here. Unfortunately, the next person we're talking to is called Benedict.
Benedict, you're never going to be a mayor. I'm sorry, you've got the wrong name. Political commentator Benedict Spence, thanks indeed for joining us. What did you make of what Andy Burnham had to say? Was there any detail there?
There wasn't enough detail for my liking. I mean, honestly, though, this has always been a bit of a problem with Andy Burnham, hasn't it? That he's been a politician of the vibes variety rather than the detail. This tends to make politicians very popular, for a short period at least, and then everything goes wrong down the line. But, let's give him a chance at least. When it comes to talk, though, about this idea of almost, redistributing power around the country, sort of, extra devolution, not just to different nations, but now to different regions and different cities, again, it's one of those things that sounds nice, because there'll be lots of people around the country goes, them in their London, they don't really get us here, or wherever that might be, or possibly the extension for Edinburgh, people in the Highlands saying the same things, they don't get us here at Holyrood. That's fine, because everybody can say that on some level. But does devolving power further, diluting power further, and spreading, if you like, responsibility further, actually have any sort of tangible benefits that we can sit back and say, oh yes, it always works very well? One only needs to look at the current situations in Scotland and Wales, and to a degree in Northern Ireland, to see it's not a silver bullet. And actually, just because you are a particularly successful media operator as a metropolitan mayor in, say, Greater Manchester, that doesn't mean that Manchester has suddenly become a global city or anything like that. Far from it. He's very good at spinning these kind of yarns, Andy Burnham. But will it actually lead to tangible change, moving things out of the economic powerhouse of the country and spreading them to other regions? I'm yet to see any evidence that it works.
Benedict, isn't it always true as well that Labour Party will always devolve, whereas Conservative Party will always try to centralise? The controversy about what Andy Burnham is saying from many of our viewers, and indeed from many MPs, certainly those in the South, is that this is more divisive. What we want is a Prime Minister, because that's what we're looking at here, let's be honest, a Prime Minister who unites the kingdom. Many people are feeling more divided by this. Indeed, now we're talking about sort of like, them down south, they don't understand it. We shouldn't be having that conversation. We should be talking positively about what is going to unite us.
Well, I'd actually disagree even that we need something to unite us. What we actually need is something to bulldoze through a lot of opposition that we have. Often you get opposition for very good reasons in this country, but then it becomes incredibly pernickety. It takes a very long time. It gets very expensive. The fundamental issues in this country are not that people in London don't get people in Bradford or don't get people in Warrington or wherever it might be. The fundamental issues are the same. They affect everybody. They are to do with things like planning. They are to do with things like regulation when it comes to things like electricity, house building, basic things like food, reservoirs, the natural services that we need in this country, so things like water. Those are the things that need to be addressed. You don't need to devolve those things. You don't need to give even more outsourcing to people who potentially are even less qualified to deal with these things than they are in their London. And that's the problem. If you were to solve those bottleneck issues that we talk about so much across all the media platforms in this country, if you were to solve those, you get so much change in regional inequality and all that. Suddenly people generally would be feeling a lot wealthier. But that actually doesn't just take a unifying politician. It takes a politician prepared to stare down people on his own side and say, enough of this nonsense, we have to get things moving again.
Benedict, I listened with such interest to your first answer in this conversation. We were speaking about
Was the
vibes
second one
over
very
detail.
uninteresting by comparison?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've just been ruminating on this.
And the third one was dreadful.
I've been ruminating on this throughout the entire conversation. And I'm just thinking, have we seen this play before? A managerial, unpopular, grey-haired Prime Minister gets replaced 2 years into the parliamentary term by a former mayor with an unusual dress sense who talks about levelling up all parts of the country as his driving mission and who is criticised of being vibes over detail. Is Andy Burnham Boris Johnson?
Would that make Keir Starmer Theresa May? In which case, I think she'll be greatly offended, given that she did at least have an interesting choice in shoes. But
He has an interesting choice in glasses.
Yes, true. Is Andy Burnham Boris Johnson? I mean, I suppose for the hairstyle, read the eyelashes, maybe. But I think that both of them would be slightly horrified to be compared to the other. What I would say ultimately, and this is the key difference, and I know he's deeply unpopular, but Boris Johnson did actually have an interesting team of people behind him. Love him or loathing Dominic Cummings might not be a very good surgeon, but he was a very good diagnostician. I don't see that team around Andy Burnham. The very fact that we're still having the conversation of who might end up being his chancellor, and they are such wildly different options, shows you that there isn't really any kind of drive or unifying vision behind Andy Burnham. As I say, it sounds great, and there's a lot of sort of things in what he's saying that I'm sure he does deeply believe, but is there an actual sort of purpose behind it? At the very least, Boris Johnson, when he had Brexit to get done, that was something Boris Johnson couldn't even ignore if he wanted to. Whereas Andy Burnham, it seems that there's not quite that fire there beyond simply, wow, things aren't going great at the moment and I need to find a way to improve the situation. That's a bit for all.
Sorry, Bernadette, just very quickly and finally, do you think it's a mistake not to mention immigration, one of the big talking points?
It's a huge mistake. You can't get away from it, and the fact that so many Labour politicians believe that there is a silver bullet beyond simply reducing it for the general public, I think is insane that they haven't quite gotten onto this yet.
Reminds me of Ed Miliband's 2013 conference speech. Did it no notes, everyone was very impressed, except he forgot to talk about the paragraph he had supposedly written about immigration. Forgetting immigration seems to be a theme for many Labour potential leaders' speeches. But on that note, Benedict Spence, thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time this afternoon.
Yeah, OK. There's lots more to come, lots more reaction to Andy Burnham's greater devolution plan, including your reaction. Please do keep them coming in. But after the break, Tom.
Yes, should shoppers know where the meat in their sandwiches really comes from? Well, Labour MPs are calling for clearer labels on processed foods to show whether the meat was imported or reared in Britain.
Can't wait for that one. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News at Britain's News Channel. We'll see you very soon.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Warm sunshine for many of us through today. Not quite as hot as it has been lately, but certainly still warm in the sunshine. Plenty of dry weather around too. That's thanks to high pressure. The Azores high down to the south of the UK, bringing its influence to much of central and southern areas. Further north and west, low pressure is approaching to bring some spells of rain through this afternoon. So showery outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland and western Scotland through this afternoon. Elsewhere, sunny spells, quite a lot more cloud than we would have seen over the weekend, but still some warm sunshine, particularly in the south and in the east, where temperatures will be in the low, possibly mid-20s. So pretty close to average for the time of year, but still pretty warm in the sunshine, and it's still quite strong this time of year. Still get high UV levels with cloud cover too. Showers will push into more northwestern areas throughout this evening, turning a little bit heavier than they will have been through today. It is going to be quite a mild night tonight with plenty of cloud around, but a wet one too for more western areas. You can see that rain pushing into parts of the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland later on today. Some showers as well pushing into the southwest. They're going to be quite light at first, just quite a bit more cloud approaching from the west through the first part of the night. But I think many western and northern areas will see some rain by tomorrow morning, particularly across the north and west. You can see those heavier bursts of rain wrapped around that area of low pressure. Also see strengthening winds across more western areas. So a bit of a breezier start to the day in the west. Another quite mild start though in the east, in particular temperatures 17 or 18 degrees as a minimum tonight, so warmer than it was last night. Then through Tuesday morning, outbreaks of rain continue for many western and northern areas. Some quite strong westerly winds, particularly across western coasts. Probably quite a bright start across the east, but that rain may push in there into the evening, but it will be feeling rather warm with highs of 25 degrees across the east. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 eastbound at Hart Hill Services Junction 5 is restricted due to a collision causing delays. M4 eastbound sees congestion between junctions 28 at Tredegar Park and 26 at Malpass. In Leicestershire, A46 southbound is closed between A5630 and M1 junction due to a collision. Hampshire's A31 westbound is partially closed because of a broken down vehicle between M27 and A338 north, blocking a lane. On trains, Avanti West Coast runs reduced service and Grand Central faces disruption between Newark Northgate and Grantham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 20-1. And do keep those comments coming in about what you make of Andy Burnham. We do want to get to some of them later in the programme.
Yes, indeed, especially if you are from Manchester, because so far, and I'm not even joking here, we've had as many comments as we get on any subject on this one, and I honestly can't find a single positive thing about what people have heard Andy Burnham say. Not one single positive thing. I mean, you know, Paul sums it up, the devil's in the detail, and there was absolutely no detail in that whatsoever, not least how this is all going to be paid for.
I think he would have won more plaudits if he'd have taken questions from the media.
Absolutely. I think that was a huge mistake.
Because, I mean, his whole big thing has been on social media. He replies to journalists. He wants to appear to be more accessible than the sort of stuffier previous ancien regime. And yet, what do we have here? Just the most stage-managed thing since Tony Blair.
Yep. OK, we have to talk about sausages, though, so shush. OK, now, people often say they'd buy British if they actually knew what was actually British. Well, now a group of Labour MPs want supermarkets to make that much easier to identify.
Well, they're calling for mandatory country of origin labels, saying shoppers deserve to know exactly where their food comes from, and British farmers deserve a fairer chance on the shelves. OK, so joining us now is Chief Executive of the Countryside Alliance, Tim Bonner. Tim, thank you so much for joining us on this one. Tim, what do you make of this? Put warning labels on foreign meat, MPs urge supermarkets. I thought we kind of already had it.
Well, no, we don't have it, and we as an organisation have been banging on about this for years and years and years. It's deeply frustrating, but I would put it in more positive terms. It's not about warning labels, because lots of the food coming in from abroad is high quality. It's the high welfare standards. But the fact is that you and I, as consumers, want to be able to know where the food we are eating comes from. And if I want to support a British farmer by buying a pie that's got British meat in it, I want to be able to do that. And at the moment, I can't. And there's a perfectly straightforward systems that we can put in place, that the last government could have put in place, and we asked them to do that for long enough. And this government has an opportunity. And look, this is something positive as well. You know, I'm afraid the Countryside over the last 2 years taken the view that everything that has come out of government has been negative. This isn't a huge thing, but it's an important thing. It's good for consumers. It's good for farmers. Why don't we try and do something positive? It doesn't even cost any money.
Does it need to come from government, though? Because, I mean, for example, the Fair Trade campaign has been a huge success. It's actually interesting that if I want to buy things to help, you know, third world countries, I can do that in a much easier way than to help farmers here in Britain. But that's by the by. That's not a government-imposed scheme. That's a scheme that supermarkets and producers sign up to, so that people know that there's a level of quality and welfare in what they're purchasing from other countries. I mean, couldn't we do the same voluntary regime here in Britain?
We could, and yeah, that's been encouraged. But if I was being cynical, I might just suggest that the fair trade stuff, the supermarkets and other people selling those goods might see that as a positive. It's a reason for people to buy stuff, and therefore they want to promote it. Whereas labelling food and processed food in particular is all about cost. It's about the fact that you can import products from all over the world, from China, from Thailand, chicken, for instance, and products from all over the world, and you know, the quality might be fine, but it's a lot cheaper because it's a lot easier to produce this stuff in other countries. And so it is undercutting British farmers, and it would be, I think, perfectly reasonable to say to consumers, say to supermarkets, no, sorry, you know, if you're going to sell a chicken pie, you've got to tell the consumer where it comes from, and they can make a choice. It's all to the, you know, it might be the same standards, but the British consumer can make a choice whether they want to spend their money supporting British farmers. And I think many of them will do that positively if you give them that choice.
Brilliant. And it will cost less than £4 million, where the benefit to farmers could be £48 million. Financially, it makes sense as well.
It's all positive. The Treasury can be happy. Everyone can be happy. And as I say, yeah, this is government doing something for the countryside, not doing things to the countryside. And that would make a very nice change after the last couple of years, I can promise you.
Well, we'll have to wait and see see if they follow through with it. But Tim Bonner, thanks indeed for joining us, Chief Executive at the Countryside Alliance. Appreciate your time.
Indeed. OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's lots more coming up on today's show.
Yeah, it's time for strawberries and cream. Let's hope British strawberries and British cream. Well, Wimbledon returns. Bad news, though, as our very own Emma Raducanu pulls out just hours before the tournament begins.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
And it's Father's Day. I don't know if my dad's up yet. If you are, happy Father's Day.
He's already texted.
Is he?
He's tuning in.
Mr. Reaper, good morning to you.
Sunday, well, speaking of Sunday lunches, he'll be having a roast pork joint later, courtesy of myself.
Good, good.
Cards and gifts are a big part of the day, of course, but it's also important to remember that there is more to it than that.
Yeah, because it's not just about one day, is it? Actually, it's like, what do dads do? And healthy fathers, a healthy sort of father-son, father-daughter relationship builds strong families, builds strong communities and helps build a strong country, actually.
Well, that is why mentoring the next generation matters more than ever. So take a little extra time today, make sure you do, to appreciate not just the fathers or the grandfathers or the uncles out there, but any strong father figure that you may have.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Welcome back to Breakfast, 25 minutes past 6. And breaking news this morning, the TV presenter Jeremy Clarkson has revealed that he's been diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer in an emotional video.
In the scenes, he's telling his co-stars Caleb Cooper and Charlie Ireland, his land agent and his farm manager, and they're both devastated, as you can imagine. You know, it's a huge bombshell to drop on them. He's only 66. He's made no secrets that he's maybe not lived the healthiest lifestyle. After the heart problems, he bemoans having to eat Greek yogurt and kale and whatnot. But following this, I think he's going to have a complete lifestyle overhaul even further, and just fingers crossed the treatment proves effective.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Hello there, Emily and Tom. Yes, some breaking news in the last few moments from Kensington Palace regarding our future king, Prince George of Wales, the oldest son of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The short statement from Kensington Palace reads, Kensington Palace can confirm that Prince George will attend Eton College in September. That news just coming in from the royal household in the last few moments. This clearly is, well, perhaps not surprising news for those in royal circles. Eton College, the most prestigious school, arguably in the country, educating 20 prime ministers, and of course Prince George's own father and uncle, Prince William and Prince Harry, as well as 2 Dukes of Gloucester, the Duke of Kent and Prince Michael of Kent as well. So that confirmation just coming in from Kensington Palace. £63,000 a year it costs to send a child to Eton College.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 10-1, and Wimbledon has begun, with the biggest names in tennis beginning their bid for the title.
Yeah, defending champion Jannik Sinner is first on centre court, but bad news for us Brits as Emma Raducanu pulls out just hours before the tournament begins.
Well, joining us now live from Wimbledon is GB News reporter Sophia Wensler. Sophia, I suppose, thank goodness, it's not quite as hot as last week.
No, good afternoon from a very sunny but not quite as hot southwest London. So I think we're all happy about that, especially for the people in tents here. And it is, of course, the first day of Wimbledon 2026. And this year's tournament promises plenty of drama, as you've just been saying. We've got returning champion Italy's Jannik Sinner starting very soon on centre court. And for the women's favourites, we've got Arina Sabalenka, though the Belarusian has actually never quite cracked Wimbledon. So we will be seeing if maybe this year it is the one for her. And for British fans, they will be looking to home hopes such as Jack Draper. He's actually being coached by his childhood idol, Andy Murray, and he has been speaking to reporters saying Draper is looking very good ahead of Wimbledon, so definitely one to watch. And we are, of course, here at the famous Wimbledon queue with some very dedicated tennis fans who've been camping here overnight. And one of those fans, who is a very seasoned queuer, if we can call you that, is Kate. You've got quite the layout here, quite the setup. Can you tell us some of your tips about what's the best way to queue?
Oh, the best way to queue is to be friendly, you know, make friends with all your neighbours, definitely bring a chair, and definitely bring your earplugs for in the evening, just because there's plenty of people who still keep walking in overnight.
And how many years have you been coming to the queue?
This is probably about my 9th year now. So yes, over the years I've learned what to bring and what not to bring. Yeah.
Wow, okay, I almost want to join the queue as well now with you. And obviously we've heard that Raducanu has dropped out, unfortunately, because of an injury. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a shame. I mean, she seems to get fit again, and then unfortunately when Wimbledon comes along, she unfortunately is obviously maybe training too hard and then has to pull out. It is a shame because we were looking forward to seeing her. She did well at Queen's the other week, so I wish her well, and hopefully next year she'll be back here.
Yes, so not Emma Raducanu, but who are you hoping to see today? Well, actually, it's tomorrow, isn't it? You're already here for tomorrow, so you're really ahead of the game. Who are you hoping to see tomorrow?
Well, we're hoping to get onto centre court tomorrow so that we can cheer on Jack Draper, as you mentioned earlier, and also Serena's on later, so that would be great to be able to see her. But if we don't get centre court, we'll get into Wimbledon. We'll just enjoy any of the tennis that we get to see.
Okay. Well, that's absolutely fabulous. Thank you very much. And we wish you all the best in your queuing. Well, you have heard it there. It's a very fabulous atmosphere here at Wimbledon in the queue. And we will be bringing you all of the latest as we are here throughout the day with all the twists and turns as the championships continue.
Well, Sophia Wensler, thanks indeed for being there at the heart of the action for us live in Wimbledon. I've got to ask you, are you going to be looking forward to anyone in particular to see yourself?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not actually in the queue, so I won't be going inside, but I guess I can be watching from home. I think Novak Djokovic is one that I am always interested in. I'm a little bit more of a fan of some of the older tennis players, so I'm hoping that he does well this year.
Fantastic. Well, I suppose you can always get strawberries and cream from a field outside. There'll be big screens and whatever else. But Sophia Wensler, thanks very much indeed.
Sophia.
Have you ever been to Wimbledon?
I have several times. The editors of newspapers were invited every year into the Royal Box.
Oh, the Royal Box!
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not a tennis fan. I have zero idea what I'm looking at. And if you're in the Royal Box, you can't leave. It's very, because the camera's always on you, and it's very, very difficult to lead. And my husband went once and refused to go again.
Wow.
So I took my mum.
Yes.
My mum in a Royal Box was the most hilarious thing ever because she offered to do the washing up.
Fantastic.
Because Mum is proper old East End girl, and it's like, well, I'm going to go and do the washing up, and
It's a bit like the Queen when she hosts a Prime Minister up in
Balmoral?
Balmoral, that's it. Do stay with us here on GB News. Of course, it's not only Andy Burnham that gave a massive speech today. The leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, had her say. We've got a sit-down interview with her after this.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Warm sunshine for many of us through today. Not quite as hot as it has been lately, but certainly still warm in the sunshine. Plenty of dry weather around too. That's thanks to high pressure. The Azores high down to the south of the UK, bringing its influence to much of central and southern areas. Further north and west, low pressure is approaching to bring some spells of rain through this afternoon. So showery outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland and western Scotland through this afternoon. Elsewhere, sunny spells, quite a lot more cloud than we would have seen over the weekend, but still some warm sunshine, particularly in the south and in the east, where temperatures will be in the low, possibly mid-20s. So pretty close to average for the time of year, but still pretty warm in the sunshine, and it's still quite strong this time of year. Still get high UV levels with cloud cover too. Showers will push into more northwestern areas throughout this evening, turning a little bit heavier than they will have been through today. It is going to be quite a mild night tonight with plenty of cloud around, but a wet one too for more western areas. You can see that rain pushing into parts of the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland later on today. Some showers as well pushing into the southwest. They're going to be quite light at first, just quite a bit more cloud approaching from the west through the first part of the night. But I think many western and northern areas will see some rain by tomorrow morning, particularly across the north and west. You can see those heavier bursts of rain wrapped around that area of low pressure. Also see strengthening winds across more western areas. So a bit of a breezier start to the day in the west. Another quite mild start though in the east, in particular temperatures 17 or 18 degrees as a minimum tonight, so warmer than it was last night. Then through Tuesday morning, outbreaks of rain continue for many western and northern areas. Some quite strong westerly winds, particularly across western coasts. Probably quite a bright start across the east, but that rain may push in there into the evening, but it will be feeling rather warm with highs of 25 degrees across the east. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're celebrating a golden summer with a terrific two-part Great British giveaway. First, you could win a sensational £60,000 in tax-free cash. And that's not all, as you'll also win our most precious prize to date, a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis. In the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 1 o'clock on Monday, the 29th of June. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and thank you for your company. Andy Burnham reveals a bold plan to rewrite how Britain is governed. The former mayor says he'll create number 10 of the North in Manchester, promising to shift power out of Westminster and transform how the country is run.
Now get this, number 10 North will be the nerve centre of a rewired Britain.
But according to Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch, we're heading for a summer of chaos because Andy Burnham and his slightly unthought-through plans, perhaps, and he should adopt the Conservatives' 5-point plan. That's according to Kemi.
1, cuts the cost of energy. 2, get people working, cut the welfare bill, scrap the Employment Rights Act. 3, cut taxes. 4, slash burdensome regulation. And 5, champion business, not more politicians.
Well, Andy Burnham says he wants 10 years to raise living standard across the country. But given that we're heading to our 5th Prime Minister in just 4 years, is he going to get it?
Elsewhere, are white pupils being failed? Well, a major inquiry says England's education system is failing white working-class children and calls for a once-in-a-generation reform. The report urges sweeping changes, warning too many are being left behind by a system that simply isn't working for them.
Yeah, this inquiry finds that only 36% of those white working-class pupils achieved a grade 4 at GCSE level for English and Maths. That's compared to over 70% for much of the rest of the country. We're here in Goldthorpe in Yorkshire, where residents have been telling us they're starting to feel like this village is being left behind.
And are ministers hiding the true scale of working from home in Whitehall? Critics claim departments are gaming the system with office occupancy figures, masking just how many civil servants are still actually working remotely.
And the Princess of Wales completes the 3 Peaks Challenge, raising awareness after her own cancer battle.
Lots of people have asked me why I'm doing this challenge, and partly it's personal. I'm so grateful to be here, to be strong enough to walk these hills.
But of course, we want your thoughts on some of the biggest stories that we're discussing today. What did you make of Andy Burnham's big speech? And the fact that he wasn't willing to take any questions from journalists after it.
I think several mistakes. 1, no questions from journalists, considering he's selling himself, we've heard it before, man of the people. I'm actually representing the ordinary working people of the North and the rest of the country, and I will talk to all of you unless you're a journalist asking a question. And the other thing, as many of you are pointing out already, absolutely no mention of immigration whatsoever, which is huge. Certainly in huge swathes of the North, people are really concerned about it. Didn't mention it at all. And also didn't kind of mention how any of his plans are going to be paid for.
Do you think number 10 North is a bit of a gimmick?
Yes. Do you think the T-shirt is a bit of a gimmick?
It's interesting. I mean, I've been to Manchester quite a few times. I have seen people wearing suits. People do wear suits above the Watford Gap or whatever it is. I mean, it seems strange that Andy Burnham walked in saying, I'm wearing my Manchester clothes, sort of implying that people don't wear suits in the north of England.
If you live in Manchester, do you not find that slightly patronising? My husband's a half-breed. I mean, half his family are Mancunian, right? And he was actually spitting feathers at that. He goes, what is he telling the world about people of Manchester? We can wear suits, right? We don't all have whippets.
Well, I'm interested for Catherine Forster's thoughts on this, our chief political correspondent with us here at the desk. Of course, you've been with Kemi today, but what do you make of the Mancunians can't wear suits thing?
It was odd, wasn't it, that he got on the train, it's a week ago, it feels like so long. He got on that train in his black jacket and his black, or was it dark blue T-shirt, and then he got off the train that was 22 minutes late and trailed by helicopters in a suit and a tie, and now he's back in the... Yeah, it's curious. Lots of questions, and lots of unanswered questions, of course, because journalists were not allowed to ask.
He doesn't answer questions.
Well, he's building a bit of a reputation about this, which is strange because he had previously been seen as one of the more open and communicative politicians in the country.
He used to be quite happy to talk to me on GB News, mostly about Northern Transport. He spoke to me for GB News at the beginning of the local election campaign. But then at the Makerfield by-election, the press were kettled. We couldn't get near him. No questions. And then the following morning, again, no questions. He pretty much ran away away, actually, from journalists chasing him. So, yeah, it's a pattern. It's a pattern now, unfortunately.
Talking of which, we've got some exclusive footage to show you of Andy Burnham running away from that press conference. It wasn't a press conference, the press weren't allowed to ask any questions. gbnews.com/your say, scan the QR code, get in touch, let us know what you're thinking.
Absolutely. All to come after your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you both. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 5 minutes past 1. Andy Burnham has promised to give the UK a new direction and fix what he called a fragmented and disjointed Westminster. In his first major speech since announcing he's running for the Labour leadership post, he set out plans for the biggest transfer of power out of Whitehall in modern times. So-called Number 10 North would devolve power to Manchester and give more money and control to other regions. The new Labour MP for Makerfield says it's all part of a 10-year plan to raise living standards across the UK. If no other candidate emerges, he could take over from Sir Keir Starmer as the next Prime Minister in just a matter of weeks.
I am going to give Britain the circuit breaker it needs. By building a more collaborative politics in Westminster, by taking power out of the centre and putting it in the hands of the people and places who can use it best. And in so doing, creating a new sense of agency, possibility and hope flowing around the country.
But the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, has warned Britain is facing a summer of chaos and has accused Mr Burnham of having no real plan beyond devolution and is urging him to face questions in Westminster.
Britain cannot afford a summer of chaos, not another one. We cannot afford 3 months in limbo. We cannot afford 3 months without a government. Andy Burnham should delay the summer's parliamentary recess by just a day or two, come to the House and tell us his plan for this country. This is not a game. It should not be a soap opera. If he wants to be the leader of our country, it is time to start acting like it.
Children's mental health services in England are in crisis, with more than 1 million young people affected in a single year. Around 1 in 10 children are either referred for, waiting for or receiving treatment, with demand almost doubling since 2018. The top reason for referrals is anxiety. The Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel de Souza, says intervention needs to happen far sooner.
When I speak to children, they're talking to me about worries about money, worries about getting a job when they're 9 or 10 years old. They're spending hours of their days on social media apps. The way we're bringing our children up really needs a good think. We need to support them far better. And when they do show signs of worries, of anxiety, dealing with it early.
And actress Dame Penelope Keith has died at the age of 86. She started her career on the stage and joined the Royal Shakespeare Company in 1963, but became a household name for her work in sitcoms. She was best known for her roles as Margot Ledbetter in The Good Life, for which she won a BAFTA, and, of course, Audrey Forbes Hamilton in To the Manor Born. Her family said she passed away peacefully at home after living with cancer. Those are your latest headlines. Let's have a look at the markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.32 and 1.16 euros. The price of gold is £3,052 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 10,485 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Good afternoon, Britain. At 9 minutes past 1, we can bring you some breaking news now.
Yeah, police say 5 people have died following a shooting in the northern German town of Stade. A male suspect has been detained and officers say the motive is not yet clear. GB News national reporter Will Godley is here with the full story for us. Will.
Yeah, so worrying news coming out of Stade in Germany. This is in Lower Saxony, where we are hearing reports several people have died after shooting. Local reporting putting that number at 5 people dead at the moment. Police have said a male suspect has been arrested and detained, but the motive at this stage is not yet clear. The police in Stade have released a statement saying that there's a major operation underway on Dunkerstrasse, and they're calling citizens in the area, anybody in the area, to stay well away, follow instructions from emergency services while they attend this incident. They say the background to the crime and the person arrested is unclear at the moment, but what we're seeing at the moment, what's being reported in local media, is that there is a huge amount of emergency services on the scene there. That's in the Spiegel reporting that, as the German broadcaster NDR say so far 5 deaths have been reported, and at this stage a suspect has been arrested.
Stade is not a particularly big place. It's not one of the sort of great urban centres of Germany, of which there are many. This seems like quite a surprising location for something like this to happen.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a few miles away from Hamburg, near the coast, up into the North Sea, but by no means a big place at all, and not one many people would be aware of. So for something of this nature to happen there is bizarre. Of course, Germany just a few months ago perhaps had that car ramming attack in Leipzig. Of course, Leipzig, a much bigger city, one many people aware of. Stade, not one at all that would be on people's minds. So very worrying to come out of there. The police seem to be on the scene and dealing with this. As I say, 1 suspect arrested, 5 people dead. We don't yet know what kind of gun they were using. It seems just that there was a single shooter, but at the moment, details just emerging.
OK, well, Will Godley, thanks very much indeed for being there, for bringing us that latest breaking news there. Just to repeat, 5 confirmed dead. We don't know the number of injured quite yet, but an extraordinary shooting happened there in Stade.
As you pointed out, Tom, it's a very small population. It's only 50,000 people in that Stade. So it's as I say, it's a live breaking story. We'll bring you any further information as and when we have it.
Back to Britain now, where Andy Burnham has announced his economic vision for the country.
Yes, the prospective PM said, well, prospective is going to be, isn't he? Said his plans for a number 10 North will be the nerve centre of a rewired Britain.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the aisle, Kemi Badenoch has warned that Britain is heading for a summer of chaos. This as she delivered a message directly to Andy Burnham. Well, our very own chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, has been speaking to the leader of the opposition. Let's take a listen.
Kemi Badenoch, we are heading for our 5th Prime Minister in 4 years, a summer of chaos, you've said. We've got a guy who wasn't an MP 2 weeks ago that in 3 weeks' time is going to be Prime Minister. But really, Labour's just turning into the Conservative Party. I mean, this is what you guys did over and over again.
Well, the reason why we are going to have a summer of chaos is because Andy Burnham doesn't have a plan. He's just making announcements, hasn't thought it through. And this is one of the things that caused us problems as Conservatives. I'm not here to pretend the previous Conservative governments were perfect. They were not. That's why I've apologised and acknowledged the mistakes and changed the policy. But Andy Burnham doesn't seem to have learned the right lessons. If you do what Keir Starmer did, or what even Nigel Farage is doing, and just saying things without working out how you're going to do them, you will run into trouble. And even his premiership won't last very long unless he comes up with fully worked up, thought through plans.
He's going to cause you problems, though, isn't he? Because, as you've said, you quite like him. He's popular. He's already got a bounce in the polls. Now you're going to have to worry not just about fighting Reform, who, you know, could win at a general election, but also the possibility of a general election where Labour wins.
Well, I'm not worried at all. It's very easy to be popular when all you're doing is spending money that the government has given you. When you have to take difficult decisions, the popularity disappears. Every prime minister has learned that. Being prime minister is not a popularity contest. It is nothing like being mayor. It is about making tough choices for the public good. Tough choices like funding defence. We had a defence secretary who resigned just a few weeks ago, saying that Labour was not funding defence, that the country was unprotected and we weren't looking after our troops. That's extraordinary. We can't just ignore that. What's Andy Burnham's plan for defence? Where's he going to get the money from? He needs to come to Parliament and explain what it is he's going to do, rather than stay in Manchester where he feels most comfortable not answering anybody's questions. He owes us at least that.
You said you'll only call for a general election if you feel that defence isn't funded properly. But I mean, the truth is, you don't want a general election now, do you? It would be a disaster. You are very popular, but the Conservative Party still isn't. You need time, don't you?
Well, I'm very happy to fight a general election. It's never just about the polls at that point. It's about the agenda you are offering the country. That's what they vote on. The first time I came into Parliament was in 2017, and Theresa May was 20 points ahead in the polls, but people were not convinced by the agenda, and she didn't win the big majority she was expecting. She went backwards. That's why it's all about the agenda that you're putting forward to the country. But the reason why I say a general election should depend on a defence investment plan not being funded is because we have to focus on the problems that we have right now. I'm very worried about defence. Andy Burnham has a 160 majority. What can he not do with those people, unless he's planning to do some horrible things, in which case I think that the public will have something to say about that. So I'm not worried about a general election at all. Bring it on.
Bring it on. Also, some other echoes of the Tories. I mean, George Osborne, with his Metro mayors, sort of gave Andy Burnham the platform to become the guy that now sweeps in. But also, devolution to the regions, trying to give power back to local communities, spread money and opportunity. This is Boris Johnson's levelling up, isn't it? What's the difference?
It is. It basically is Boris Johnson's levelling up, minus private enterprise, minus ownership, minus the private sector, with more taxes and less control for people. Because what we're going to see is decision-making outsourced yet again to more quangos, to regional mayors that have no scrutiny. Who was scrutinising Andy Burnham? He was just doing whatever he liked. There was no parliament that he could answer to. And that's what worries me, that Andy Burnham doesn't want to take tough decisions. He wants to be popular. So he's going to tell the mayors to sort it out. Mayors cannot fund a defence mayors can't fund a defence investment plan. We don't have an army in Essex and a Royal Navy in Essex, which the mayor is going to sort out. He needs to get serious. Devolution is just a process. It doesn't in and of itself fix any problems. Who are you devolving to? Are they any good? If you devolve to good people, it works. You look at the SNP. They had the benefits of devolution. It's Scotland that has suffered. Same with Labour-run Wales. That was devolved. Look at what's happened to the NHS in Wales. Look at what's happened to education in Scotland. So devolution is not a silver bullet. You need to have a plan. And right now, Andy Burnham doesn't have a plan. It's just vibes.
Just quickly, Shabana Mahmood is planning to enlist members of the public to replace judges to oversee appeals against rejected asylum claims to sort of get through the backlog. Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, I don't understand the thinking behind what Shabana is doing. Labour told us that they were going to stop the boats and smash the gangs. They have not done that, and this is why they still have an asylum backlog problem that they're dealing with. And which members of the public are they going to pick? Are they people who are going to rubber stamp asylum applications? I hope not. We are spending billions on asylum accommodation and the whole asylum system. We need to stop the boats. We need to deport foreign criminals. People who should not be in our country need to leave, and that is what the Conservative policies are. We're leaving the ECHR so that we can do the things that we haven't been able to do before. In government, we tried everything except leaving the ECHR, and I think people can see that there is no other way for us to deal with this problem of illegal immigration into our country.
And just finally, last week you described Andy Burnham as a pair of eyelashes and a blue T-shirt.
Black T-shirt.
Black T-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, got it wrong. He later did a fact check, which went viral, where he batted his eyelashes and went dark blue, actually. He had the last laugh, didn't he?
Well, he certainly had a laugh, and I think he's a very funny guy, and I'm sure we're going to get on, but our politics are very different. He's not going to fund the Defence Investment Plan with a tweet. So, yes, Andy, I know you're enjoying yourself right now, but things are about to get a lot tougher, and I will be waiting in Parliament for you. And I have a lot of questions. Maybe the media don't get to ask him questions, but eventually I will.
Well, Kemi Badenoch, we appreciate you talking to us on GB News, especially on a day when Andy Burnham is not taking any questions, it seems, from journalists. Thank you.
Thank you.
And delighted to say, joining us now in the studio is our very own chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, what did you make of what Kemi had to say?
She's very chipper at the moment. She's very, very upbeat. I mean, we've got Labour surging in the polls, and, you know, I suggested to her that that's a problem for her, and she, you know, she said, well, it's very easy to be popular when you're spending the money the government's given you, but when you start to make tough choices, things are very different. And of course, that is true. I thought it was interesting that she pretty much admitted that, yes, this is Boris Johnson's levelling up, but from a Labour perspective. But I thought it was just quite interesting then when she said at the end, I know you're directly to Andy Burnham, I know you're enjoying yourself right now. It's going to get a lot tougher, and I'll be waiting for you. My sense is that she does, I mean, she actually said during her Q&A, I quite like Andy Burnham. She clearly cannot abide Ed Miliband, and I think she doesn't really want to go after Andy Burnham directly because he's likeable, he's trying to be collegiate, bring everybody together. But, you know, she really goes after Ed Miliband. She described him as the villain of the story. He is the terrible, terrible person who has, you know, made it very difficult for employers, for manufacturing in this country. Let's watch and see who becomes Chancellor. Andy Burnham said that he's not making any appointments till the end, but Pat McFadden was asked earlier. Let's have a look at what he had to say.
I've been around politics for a long time, and I've learned that it's for a Prime Minister to decide their cabinet, and that's what he will do.
But if asked by Andy Burnham, you would serve him?
It's entirely up to him who's in his cabinet. It's an honour to serve in a Labour government. Labour governments don't come along very often. It's a great honour to serve. Who's in his cabinet is entirely his decision.
So not biting there, of course, and it sounds like we will not know who's Chancellor potentially for another 2 or 3 weeks, maybe right up until the point that Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister, which is 3 weeks today, bearing in mind 2 weeks ago wasn't even an MP.
Do we know why Pat McFadden was in the London Eye, giving a political interview?
Get back to you on that.
The point was he was giving a political interview.
True.
He was answering questions, unlike
I think it might have been, and actually I don't know this, I think it might have been something to do with the jobs guarantee that young people, they're going to give businesses, I think it's £3,000 if they take on somebody 18 to 24 who's been on universal credit for 6 months. So something that Andy Burnham does feel...
Sure, you can make a political point about getting them off the cycle of dependence.
Very good. Very good.
Terrible.
Tom.
Lots of you getting in touch about a brilliant interview that you've done there are saying it was a brilliant interview. And Valerie says, I think I'm getting a bit of a girl crush on Kemi.
I used to find her quite prickly, and the first year or so she didn't seem to realise that she needed the media, and there's been a real change, and she seems like she's enjoying herself now, and I think people respond to that. Keir Starmer was not enjoying himself, was he, for a very long time. Boris Johnson had that, and people, I think, like that. And it's something that Andy Burnham has as well, but, I mean, how long will that last?
Well, people like confidence in leadership. It's like the one thing you do not want in it. It's like Machiavelli used to say. You can be loved and you can be feared. And you can choose one of those two things. But the moment that someone feels pity for you, that is not what you want in a political leadership. That did for Theresa May. It's interesting, though, just the complete turnaround since the start of Kemi Badenoch's leadership. In those early Prime Minister's questions, when Keir Starmer would be so patronising towards her, and she was sort of slightly unsure of herself, perhaps, and he tried to... some people described it as being relatively misogynistic from the Prime Minister.
Mansplaining is the word that I would use.
Yeah, but the tables have now completely turned, and she does the put-downs on him.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Nicely mansplained to Catherine there. Well done, Tom.
God, you can't have a conversation without being caught.
We're ganging up on him.
Goodness
Only
me.
joking. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
There is indeed. Are ministers hiding the true scale of working from home in Whitehall? Critics claim departments are gaming the system. We'll have all the details on that one for you.
But after the break, a major inquiry says England's education system is failing young, white working-class children and claims for once-in-a-generation reform.
All of that and much, much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't you dare move a muscle. See you soon.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dorby, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 28 minutes past 1. And our hard-hitting report says that England's education system isn't working for white working-class children and that a once-in-a-generation reform is needed.
Yeah, the findings come alongside concerns from communities like Goldthorpe, a former mining village where many residents say opportunity disappeared when local industry vanished.
Let's cross over now to Goldthorpe, where GB News national reporter Jack Carson joins us now. Jack, a damning report.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the findings in here, as you were rightfully saying, is and reflected within what the Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has been saying as well, that areas like this have been robbed of opportunity. And as you can see around us now, there doesn't appear to be much opportunity still. And that's exactly the kind of sentiment that locals have reflected here to us. Of course, back in 1971, Main Street, which is just up the road from this high street where we are now, was voted the nicest street in Britain. As you can see now, more than 50 years later, later, it's a bit of a different picture. And that's essentially because, of course, those 4 collieries which are near this very busy and of course, community-led pit village, they all closed in 1994. There was still industry around, there were still factories around, but locals have been telling us today those opportunities are now few and far between. We were speaking to a fish and chip shop owner a couple of hours ago. She was telling us that she put a job vacancy up just for some extra help in the evenings. 95 people just in this community and even further afield applied. And so then when you look at the findings of this report, which find that 35% of those white working class kids that are leaving and graduating kind of secondary school are leaving with only a grade 4, which in old money is a C, compared to the rest of the country, which says that it's 72%. People then really leave these areas to try and find that opportunity. And then even though Barnsley Council, as you can see around us with these pavements, has been spending 25 or so million pounds plus to try and regenerate this high street, just because it looks a bit nicer doesn't mean necessarily those opportunities come back for those young people. Take a listen to what people here have been telling us today.
You're lowest at rank. You know, I mean, everybody fought for equality and all this, and now equality's gone. It's not equality, it's more, let's do more for minorities and let's just call white people racist because there were racism back in there.
There's nothing there to help parents that are out working for children with additional needs to be able to gain the help and support for them.
So as you heard there, and as well from other people we've been speaking to, people want a more practical opportunity. They want that ability. They want the curriculum to change so that there are more options rather than just written academic work. A lot of kids here want to go into something a bit more practical. And of course, when you look at then some of the reforms that have been suggested from this inquiry, one of them being a major expansion of apprenticeships, that is the kind of difference that communities think reforms to the education system could make.
Interesting there. Jack Carson, thanks indeed for joining us there live from Goldthorpe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jack. Indeed, that was one of the things that Andy Burnham, I found, was quite positive on 45-day work placements and apprenticeship for young people, equaling out apprenticeships with everybody having to go into university. Well, that made a lot of sense.
When you and I were growing up, writing essays
might be a
was
slight
really
difference in the
but in the long arc of history it will be seen as the before AI time.
Yes, that's true.
And you and I will have grown up in exactly the same era, although it might seem like decades apart. Kids now growing up can, with one single prompt, have an entire essay written for them.
Yeah.
Is the idea that you now need to be the best writer actually the advantage that you have? Like, is that now the economically useful skill? Or perhaps is learning a trade, being a plumber or an electrician, is that actually going to be more economically valuable than being able to write a lovely essay?
Well,
quite possibly.
Seeing as Andy Burnham has announced 1.5 million new council homes being built, yes, I would suggest going to be a plumber, a plasterer, and you're going to be richer as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's programme. But first, let's get a quick update on those latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. We'll start with some breaking news. 5 people have been killed after a shooting near a youth centre in northern Germany. A male suspect has been detained, but the motive remains unclear. Andy Burnham has promised to give the UK a new direction and fix what he called a fragmented and disjointed Westminster. In his first major speech since announcing he's running for Labour leadership, he set out plans for the biggest transfer of power out of Whitehall in modern times. Children's mental health services in England are in crisis, with more than 1 million young people affected in a single year. The top reason for referrals is anxiety. The Royal Navy is ditching plans for a new generation of destroyers in favour of drone command ships to deal with growing Russian threats in the Atlantic. It's part of a new defence investment plan due to be announced within days. And the capital of Venezuela has been hit by another 4.6 magnitude aftershock, just a week on from twin quakes that struck the country. The number of people believed to be dead is now in the region of 1,500. Those are your latest headlines. I'll have more for you at 2 p.m.
Take the GB News family with you on any device.
As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Thank you, Bethany. Now, lots more coming up on today's programme.
Yes, are ministers hiding the true scale of working from home in Whitehall? Critics even claim departments are gaming the system. We'll have all the gory details on that one.
Well, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Warm sunshine for many of us through today. Not quite as hot as it has been lately, but certainly still warm in the sunshine. Plenty of dry weather around too. That's thanks to high pressure. The Azores high down to the south of the UK, bringing its influence to much of central and southern areas. Further north and west, low pressure is approaching to bring some spells of rain through this afternoon. So showery outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland and western Scotland through this afternoon. Elsewhere, sunny spells, quite a lot more cloud than we would have seen over the weekend, but still some warm sunshine, particularly in the south and in the east, where temperatures will be in the low, possibly mid-20s. So pretty close to average for the time of year, but still pretty warm in the sunshine, and it's still quite strong this time of year. You still get high UV levels with cloud cover too. Showers will push into more northwestern areas throughout this evening, turning a little bit heavier than they will have been through today. It is going to be quite a mild night tonight with plenty of cloud around, but a wet one too for more western areas. You can see that rain pushing into parts of the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland later on today. Some showers as well pushing into the southwest. They're going to be quite light at first, just quite a bit more cloud approaching from the west through the first part of the night. But I think many western and northern areas will see some rain by tomorrow morning, particularly across the north and west. You can see those heavier bursts of rain wrapped around that area of low pressure. Also see strengthening winds across more western areas. So a bit of a breezier start to the day in the west. Another quite mild start though in the east, in particular temperatures 17 or 18 degrees as a minimum tonight, so warmer than it was last night. Then through Tuesday morning, outbreaks of rain continue for many western and northern areas. Some quite strong westerly winds, particularly across western coasts. Probably quite a bright start across the east, but that rain may push in there into the evening, but it will be feeling rather warm with highs of 25 degrees across the east. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A7 eastbound at Sheriff Hall roundabout is restricted due to a collision. M4 eastbound faces congestion between junctions 28 and 26, while M6 southbound has a lane closed between junctions 17 and 16 due to a collision. M5 northbound is partially blocked by a broken down vehicle at junction 5. A419 southbound in Wiltshire has 10-minute delays between A4117 and A361 due to an abandoned vehicle. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast operates a reduced service with Grand Central disrupted between Newark Northgate and Grantham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Welcome back. It is all coming up to 20 to 2 already. Time's flying.
It certainly is. We will talk about what we were speaking about in the break a bit later on. Yeah. Well, now, in other news, Whitehall is facing fresh questions over working from home after claims some civil servants misrepresented how often they were actually in the office.
Yeah, an investigation alleges attendance records were manipulated despite return to office rules, raising fresh concerns over accountability, value for taxpayers and how government departments monitor staff attendance.
Well, we can now speak with the CEO of the Centre for Government Reform, Amir Katecha. Amir, this sounds like a relatively bizarre way to measure occupancy. Not actually how many people are in an office, but the percentage of the office that is full.
Yeah, exactly, Tom. And I think, what it comes down to is there aren't enough desks in the office for every member of staff, right? We all know that. And yet, therefore, when departments say they're at 90% occupancy, or even in the case of Ed Miliband's department, 100% occupancy, it's a total fabrication. I mean, in actual fact, less than half of the staff are coming in because there aren't enough desks for each member of staff, if you see what I mean. So, you know, I think it's, frankly, departments trying to cook the books. They've presented this in the official GovUK data as a totally misleading statistic. I mean, if you go there and look at March and April, Ed Miliband's department, DESNES, is down at 100% occupancy, and that's a total fabrication. So, you know, we know civil servants, as it is, only have to spend 60% of the time in the office. I mean, I personally think that's far too generous as it is, right? That's only 3 days in 5. But they're not even doing that. And so, you know, we have to get a grip on the problem.
Yeah, the actual numbers for our possibly new Chancellor's department, the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, is 571 desks. Great, congratulations, for 2,969 staff.
Yeah, yeah.
So it doesn't take much for there to be 100% occupancy.
Yeah, indeed. And, you know, they've said, but some of our staff share with DSIT, which is another department. And, you know, but frankly, they haven't contested the core point here, which is that, you know, the numbers are misleading. You know, and so... I knew anecdotally this to be true because, you know, I spent 11 years in the Foreign Office. There's a huge work-from-home problem there, as in most departments. But these stats just kind of, in a way, give concrete evidence of that.
Well, has the government just set too short a lease on some of these offices? In that, during COVID, we know that some government offices and departments consolidated the number of desks they had, ended leases on buildings, sold off others. I mean, it would be quite the monumental task to try and create more desks.
Yes, I mean, but you know, if you go into a government department on a Friday, for example, it's a bit of a ghost town, right? And so even though there aren't enough desks for each member of staff, the desks that are there aren't being fully utilised in many cases, right? And I just look, I mean, look, if on a Thursday the department is full of people and on a Friday it's a ghost town, you know, I think you can read between the lines and you can see what's going on there. People are deciding to take a longer weekend. So it's a huge problem. And look, I mean, I'm not dead set against work from home in the private sector because private companies can manage things how they like. Ultimately, the market will mete out punishment if that's impacting productivity, right? The problem is, though, in the public sector, there aren't those market forces to mete out punishment on firms where it impacts productivity. Productivity in the civil service has flatlined, right? And I think work from home is a big part of the reason for that.
Why do you think there is this culture of civil servants wanting to work from home?
Well, look, I mean, I spoke a lot about this with my former colleagues. I only left the Foreign Office in March. And some of them say, look, we haven't had pay rises in years. The cost of public transport is so high. There was even some absurd assertions by the Civil Service Union that when this Iran war broke out, that was stopping people coming into the office because of the higher petrol prices. I mean, slightly ignoring the fact that I've hardly ever met a civil servant that drives into the office. They take public transport.
Exactly.
So, you know, I mean, that was just the shameless unions doing their thing. But I think the fact is, civil servants have always been paid, you know, less than they would be as bankers or lawyers. You know, they've gone in with their eyes open. It's not actually badly paid when you factor in the gold-plated pensions. So I think they've got to make their peace with that, and they need to be in the office. And, you know, I've seen with my own eyes, things are much less productive when half of the team are working from home. Ministers want to be face-to-face with the officials they're meant to be giving marching orders to. And, you know, frankly, it does have a big impact. And I think if the civil service is broken and productivity in the public sector is flatlining, which it is, we have to ask the hard questions about why that might be the case. And as I say, I think this is a big part of it.
It is interesting to see that in the private sector, more and more large organisations are rolling back on their very generous working from home requirements, still having some flexibility, but it seems like the high high watermark of this stuff was reached a few years ago.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I mean, the problem is in the private sector, there are bosses willing to give marching orders and to say it how it is, and that just doesn't exist. You know, senior mandarins, frankly, are far more concerned about being popular amongst the rank and file than they are about running an efficient organisation. I mean, this is the problem time and time again. You've got a senior mandarin who does actually come in because they can see that it's by coming in that you get ahead and rise to the top. But they don't have the stomach to say to their more junior officials, you've got to be in the office, because, you know, that sort of tough approach, that tough management style, it's just alien in the civil service.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Fascinating, really. Amir Katecha, thanks indeed
Thank you so much for coming in. Illuminating and absolutely depressing. And let us know what you think about that one. I mean, out of sight, out of mind. I mean, if you're not in the office, you're gone.
Well, this is what the Cabinet Office thinks about it. A spokesman has told us, we have always been clear that these statistics refer to building occupancy, which is what these figures accurately show. Many staff across the civil service also work in offices outside of Whitehall, and on any given working day, a certain proportion of the workforce will be out conducting in-person work at a location away from their usual office space.
Yes, let us know. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show, but we're off to work from home.
Yes, someone who isn't working from home, but also not working from an office, is the Princess of Wales. Yes, she's completed a 3 Peaks challenge, raising awareness after her own cancer battle. That next.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we know, in a democracy, you're free to choose how you want to celebrate. And this is right on brand for Donald Trump. He loves to be a big spectacle with any celebration he does. He wants it to be big. He wants it to grab headlines. And clearly right now, he wants to show strength. So it's a tactical decision as well. As we know, there's a very unpopular war going on with Iran. And he's hoping to announce a deal tonight, which would be the greatest birthday gift he could get, because we do need a deal. But it's only Donald Trump who would choose to do this. A lot of the people who follow UFC voted for him, and he's being tactical ahead of midterm elections, trying to show strength.
GB News, the People's Channel. Nana Akua, weekends from 3 p.m.
5 years ago from today, I got to meet my absolute hero, Nigel Farage, and rub shoulders with Dan Wootton and Andrew Neil, the latter being particularly grumpy. He was less than impressed as well when the sound failed during his first broadcast. The lighting was dreadful. I looked mouldy, and at one point I was practically invisible during a breakfast show because of a black backdrop behind me. I was little more than eyes and teeth. We faced obstacle after obstacle, including Stop Funding Hate, an activist group that set about trying to destroy us before we'd even broadcast a single second. Advertisers were frightened off, and hostility towards the channel was actively encouraged, which was deeply ironic. But still, we persisted. If anything, it made us more creative and more resilient.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Ian McKellen is helping relaunch the Yard Theatre up in Hackney, which reopens this summer, with a new purpose-built 200-capacity auditorium. Tiny, but he'll be doing a brand new version of King Lear. Up in Scotland, Alan Cumming has taken over the Pitlochry Festival. And I just want people to know that all these small theatres, number one, it's not such a big risk. Ticket prices are £30, £35, £40, top price. And you can find less than that. So you can take a risk, but you'll go along and you'll experience something. You'll be part of something. And I am a huge fan of what we get in the West End. It's world class, but it is a lot of money. And it's sometimes just a little bit predictable or complacent or safe, I would say. Not always, but sometimes.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 10 to 2. Now, the Princess of Wales has completed the Three Peaks Challenge, all to raise money for a cancer charity, becoming the first member of the royal family to complete this particular feat. Let's have a listen.
Lots of people have asked me why I'm doing this challenge, and partly it's personal. I'm so grateful to be here, to be strong enough to walk these hills. But more importantly, it's to give something back and acknowledge really all the incredible work going on up and down this country.
I actually can't believe she's got any criticism at all for this, but she has. So let's talk now to GB News royal correspondent, the wonderful Cameron Walker. Cameron, it's a lovely story, a wonderful thing, raising awareness for charity.
It is nice.
What's not to like?
Well, can't we just have a nice story for once? Would be lovely, wouldn't it? And yes, I mean, the Princess of Wales, of course, we all know she had a horrible cancer journey, but she has now completed it physically and mentally. Doing the Three Peaks Challenge is very difficult for an ordinary person, of course, and completed it in less than 24 hours. The first member of the royal family is believed to have done this. And at the end of her Mount Snowdon walk, which is the third peak she climbed, she had the Prince of Wales, the 3 children, and her parents and her brother there to greet her. So it was lovely. And of course, all in aid of the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity Hospital. Of course, that is where she received her own treatment. And instead of making it about her, she's trying to make it about raising awareness for that charity and for people to donate to that charity. So that was the point of it.
Yeah. And good that she's fit enough to do it as well. And,
yes.
And leaning into her Princess of Wales title.
Yes.
Is very important. But there is another royal story today, the other brother. So what is this about Prince Harry's... Or not Prince Harry, sorry. What is this about Harry's... Oh, no, he is still
Prince Harry.
It's also confusing.
Yes, he is Prince Harry.
What about Prince Harry's security?
Well, he is coming to the UK next week. In theory, Meghan and the 2 children are coming for the first time in a while, but there is a bit of a hoo-ha now about security. The reason being is that RAVEC, the Royal and VIP Executive Committee of the Home Office, has declined to give him extra security while he is in the UK. I think Harry was banking on that when he announced, or his team announced, that Meghan and the 2 children would be accompanying him for the first time since 2022. Now, I just want to show you some video of when he was here in September. So this is Prince Harry in West London during his last solo trip back in September. You may be able to see a blur just behind the Range Rover car there, and then to the right of your screen now. It's going to play again, and then I'll tell you all about it. So the lady you can see whose face we have blurred is Prince Harry's known stalker, who not only sat with just feet away from him in court, also appeared at this event, also travelled to Nigeria when Harry was there with Meghan a couple of years ago, so clearly is deemed a bit of a security risk. Now, you know, members of his own team had to body block her from jumping in front, you know, of the car or doing something quite dangerous, potentially. We know that she has severe mental health problems. But you can see here, this doesn't look like a royal trip in terms of security. If this was a working member of the royal family, A, there would be metal crash barriers everywhere. B, there would be police. There was 0 police officers on this university campus. And C, there would be police outriders and a backup car. None of that Harry gets when he is in the United Kingdom. What he gets and what he is expected to get next week is just a police liaison phone number. Obviously, if someone is going to attack Harry, the easiest way for them to get help would be to call 999, which seems a bit stupid if he is 5th in line to the throne. However, of course, the counter-argument to that, he's no longer a working member of the royal family. And a lot of people are asking, well, why should British taxpayers fit the bill? And it's such a polarising issue because there's so many different sides to this story. You could argue, for example, that Taylor Swift gets private arms police protection when she is in the United Kingdom for her Eras tour, but then the counter-argument to that is, well, she brings in lots of money to the UK economy, doesn't she? But then there have been other examples where individuals who are controversial don't contribute to the UK economy, but do get police protection occasionally. So it's going to be tricky for the Home Office.
In the Taylor Swift case, several ministers did also get free tickets, didn't they? They might have oiled the wheels a bit there. I mean, Harry has offered to pay for security himself, but the argument there is you can't just hire royal security like that, because then everyone would be trying to hire out security from the Metropolitan Police.
Exactly, and they're saying Met Police are not for sale. That's what a judge has ruled. Harry does have his own private security, which he pays for, but they cannot carry firearms and they don't have access to MI5 intelligence within the United Kingdom. So it's a really tricky one for Harry. I think he's going to probably risk bringing himself here next week. Whether he brings Meghan and the 2 children, well, in theory they're coming, but it remains to be seen if he's changed his mind.
Could it be argued that he's using the children as a bit of a bargaining chip?
It's a very good question, Tom, and I think that is one of the accusations that's been made against him. We'll have to wait and see if there's any updates on security. I doubt there will be.
OK. Cameron Walker, thank you so much. Much more coming up later on the show, all after the weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Warm sunshine for many of us through today. Not quite as hot as it has been lately, but certainly still warm in the sunshine. Plenty of dry weather around too. That's thanks to high pressure. The Azores high down to the south of the UK, bringing its influence to much of central and southern areas. Further north and west, low pressure is approaching to bring some spells of rain through this afternoon. So showery outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland and western Scotland through this afternoon. Elsewhere, sunny spells, quite a lot more cloud than we would have seen over the weekend, but still some warm sunshine, particularly in the south and in the east, where temperatures will be in the low, possibly mid-20s. So pretty close to average for the time of year, but still pretty warm in the sunshine, and it's still quite strong this time of year. Still get high UV levels with cloud cover too. Showers will push into more northwestern areas throughout this evening, turning a little bit heavier than they will have been through today. It is going to be quite a mild night tonight with plenty of cloud around, but a wet one too for more western areas. You can see that rain pushing into parts of the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland later on today. Some showers as well pushing into the southwest. They're going to be quite light at first, just quite a bit more cloud approaching from the west through the first part of the night. But I think many western and northern areas will see some rain by tomorrow morning, particularly across the north and west. You can see those heavier bursts of rain wrapped around that area of low pressure. Also see strengthening winds across more western areas. So a bit of a breezier start to the day in the west. Another quite mild start though in the east, in particular temperatures 17 or 18 degrees as a minimum tonight. So warmer than it was last night. Then through Tuesday morning, outbreaks of rain continue for many western and northern areas. Some quite strong westerly winds, particularly across western coasts. Probably quite a bright start across the east, but that rain may push in there into the evening, but it will be feeling rather warm with highs of 25 degrees across the east. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's a Great British Giveaway Golden Summer Celebration. Your chance to win 2 fantastic prizes. There's an incredible £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also get your hands on a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Monday, the 29th of June. I'm Dawn Neeson.
And I'm Tom Harwood. Well, Andy Burnham reveals his plan to rewrite how Britain is governed. Yes, the former mayor says he'll create a number 10 of the North in Manchester, promising to shift power out of Westminster and transform how the country is governed.
Now get this. Number 10 North will be the nerve centre of a rewired Britain.
But according to Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch, we're heading for a summer of chaos because of Andy Burnham, and he should adopt the Conservatives' 5-point plan.
1, cut the cost of energy. 2, get people working. Cut the welfare bill. Scrap the Employment Rights Act. 3, cut taxes. 4, slash burdensome regulation. And 5, champion business, not more politicians.
Well, Andy Burnham says that he's on a 10-year mission to raise living standards across the country. But given that we're currently heading towards our 5th Prime Minister in just 4 years, will he get the chance?
Also breaking news from Germany this afternoon. 5 people have been killed in a shooting in the town of Stade. A suspect has been detained as police work to establish a motive.
Well, police say the shooting took place inside a youth facility. Their job now is to work out the motive behind the shooting.
And in some lighter news, it's time for strawberries and cream. Wimbledon returns. Bad news, though, as Britain's Emma Raducanu pulls out just hours before the tournament begins.
Well, we do want your comments throughout this entire programme, of course. gbnews.com/your say is the way, as ever, to get involved. What do you make of Andy Burnham? Is he an authentic voice to shake up Westminster, or have you heard it all before?
Your new Prime Minister as of the 20th of July. Looking forward to it or not. Let us know. As I said, gbnews.com/your say. All of that coming up after the news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you both. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 2:02. Andy Burnham has promised to give the UK a new direction and fix what he called a fragmented and disjointed Westminster. In his first major speech since announcing he's running for the Labour leadership, he set out plans for the biggest transfer of power out of Whitehall in modern times. So-called Number 10 North would devolve power to Manchester and give more money and control to other regions. The new Labour MP for Makerfield says it's all part of a 10-year plan to raise living standards across the UK. If no other candidate emerges, he could take over from Sir Keir Starmer as the next Prime Minister in a matter of weeks.
I am going to give Britain the circuit breaker it needs. By building a more collaborative politics in Westminster by taking power out of the centre and putting it in the hands of the people and places who can use it best. And in so doing, creating a new sense of agency, possibility and hope flowing around the country.
But the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has warned Britain is facing a summer of chaos, accusing Mr Burnham of having no real plan beyond devolution and is urging him to face questions in Westminster.
Britain cannot afford a summer of chaos, not another one. We cannot afford 3 months in limbo. We cannot afford 3 months without a government. Andy Burnham should delay the summer's parliamentary recess by just a day or two, come to the House and tell us his plan for this country. This is not a game. It should not be a soap opera. If he wants to be the leader of our country, it is time to start acting like it.
Children's mental health services in England are in crisis, with more than 1 million young people affected in a single year. Around 1 in 10 children are either referred for, waiting for, or receiving treatment, with demand almost doubling since 2018. The top reason for referrals is anxiety. The Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel de Souza, says intervention needs to happen far sooner.
When I speak to children, they're talking to me about worries about money, worries about getting a job when they're 9 or 10 years old. They're spending hours of their days on social media apps. The way we're bringing our children up really needs a good think. We need to support them far better. And when they do show signs of worries, of anxiety, dealing with it early.
An independent inquiry has found the education system has failed white working-class pupils in England. The year-long inquiry says they remain the lowest-performing major group in schools and calls for once-in-a-generation reforms. Co-chair Baroness Estelle Morris says the issues can't be explained away by low aspiration or lack of effort, and that schools can't solve the issue alone. 5 people have been killed after a shooting at a youth welfare centre in northern Germany. It's understood all those killed were adults. Police say 2 people have been detained, one of whom is the suspected gunman. The motive remains unclear. There's been another 4.6 magnitude aftershock in Venezuela, a week on from twin quakes that struck the country. The number of people believed to be dead is now in the region of 1,500. 33 people were rescued over the weekend, including several children, but tens of thousands remain unaccounted for. And the actress Dame Penelope Keith has died at the age of 86. She started her career on the stage and joined the Royal Shakespeare Company in 1963, but became a household name for her work in sitcoms. She was best known for her roles as Margot Ledbetter in The Good Life, for which she won a BAFTA, and, of course, Audrey Forbes Hamilton in To the Manor Born. Her family said she passed away peacefully at home after living with cancer. You're up to date for now. I'll be back with more in half an hour.
Going through the ceiling, finding the floor. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
But first, let's take a look at the markets. The pound will buy you $1.32 and 1.16 euros. The price of gold is £3,060 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 10,488 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 7 minutes past 2, and Andy Burnham, of course, has been speaking in Manchester, where he outlined his economic vision for the country. In his first major speech since returning to the House of Commons, he said politics is no longer working for people and promised a new direction for the country he described as stuck in a rut.
Andy Burnham said he had plans for a number 10 in the north and will be a nerve centre of a rewired Britain.
True to the motto of this city, I am going to do things differently. I am going to break with the more of the same approach that has got us here. I am going to give Britain the circuit breaker it needs. By building a more collaborative politics in Westminster, by taking power out of the centre and putting it in the hands of the people and places who can use it best. And in so doing, creating a new sense of agency, possibility and hope flowing around the country. We will make politics work for you and the place where you live.
OK, joining us now is Labour MP for Halesowen, Alex Ballinger. Alex, what did you make of what our Andy Burnham had to say this morning and how it was delivered?
So I'm really optimistic about Andy's speech this morning. He's talking about devolution, moving power out of London, out of Whitehall, back into the regions. I think we all know that decisions are better made when they're made closer to people. And because the UK is such a centralised country, this is really something that should have happened a long time ago. So I'm really excited about the changes that Andy's talking about and how they could affect my region, for example, in the West Midlands. More power for the region here, more power over transport, more power over skills, more power over decision-making that affects people's lives. So I think it's a really positive speech, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of them coming up.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of evidence to suggest that infrastructure that's built locally doesn't have the cost spiralling problems of a project that's managed from a treasury that has to deal with 1,000,001 things at once and deals in budgets of trillions rather than millions. But Alex, that wasn't the only thing that Andy Burnham talked about. There were some strangely utopian elements of this speech. He said that we should end division in politics, that politics can all be about consensus rather than confrontation. I mean, he's talking about watering down the whipping system, giving all MPs the ability to go off and do their own thing. Isn't one of the problems of the last 2 years of this government is that that's exactly what's been happening? The Labour Party hasn't been able to coalesce around one particular strategy, and there's been a lot of rebellion. Wouldn't watering down the whipping system lead to more rebellion, not less?
I think there's a lot to be said for having more consensus in politics. If you look at how Andy has done in Manchester, he's walked across different parties to get stuff done on transport, on skills, on housing. And it's the same approach I think he wants to take to Westminster. Now, as you know, Tom, you and I have been on the show. We've had a bit of a knock about, along with other politicians. That's always going to be a part of it. That's great. But a bit more consensus, a bit more working across the aisle is probably helpful and is probably what the country needs.
Alex, aren't you at least a little bit curious about where all the money is coming from to fund many of these schemes?
Well, as I understand it, this is not about spending more money, it's about moving where that money is spent. So rather than the Treasury making decisions on transport, as you said, Tom, rather than saying, Rishi Sunak saying, we don't need HS2, it's cost too much money in the north, we'll just stop at Birmingham. It's about moving those decisions to Manchester, to the Midlands, to the southwest, so local people can decide on how it's spent and prioritise it for their particular area. And as you know, money is spent better and more efficiently in those areas on the priorities people care about. So it's not about spending more money, it's about spending money better.
What did you understand by Andy Burnham talking about public control of utilities? He said all parts of the UK should be able to take greater public control of essential services like water, housing, energy and transport. What do you interpret that to mean?
Well, there's clearly been a failure, hasn't there, on the water sector and parts of public transport on the railways, for example. And so public control
Alex,
is
both
about
of those are
bringing
controlled
more
by state organisations already. Ofwat controls what the water companies can do, and this current government is nationalising the railways.
Yeah, we're in the process of nationalising them because they were such a disaster. I think public control and public ownership of the railway franchise system is going to improve transport outcomes for people, and passengers are going to be happy. It's about taking those lessons that we've done in the buses in Manchester, where we brought those under public control. That has improved the service. It's kept prices at a reasonable level and affordable. It's about learning the lessons from that and taking it to the energy sector, taking it to other public utilities, and seeing what we can do as the government, whether that's devolved or nationally, to make sure that it works for people properly.
Alex, just one final quick question. Why no mention of immigration? This is the big worry for many of our viewers and listeners.
I expect Andy will be doing a speech on immigration in the coming weeks, and you'll hear lots about his plans to be tough, to take forward what Shabana Mahmood has been talking about, and how we make a system fair for British people.
Will we be allowed to ask questions on that one, do you think?
I'm happy to ask questions. Lots of MPs come on the show to talk about that stuff.
Ask Andy Burnham questions.
I'm sure Andy will be taking questions from the media at some point soon.
OK, well, let's hope that does happen. He's been remarkably, for someone that was so open and generous with his time with the media, right up until the point when he was the putative Prime Minister, it does seem like this remarkable sort of change of tack. Let's hope it doesn't last long. But Alex Ballinger, thanks indeed for joining us, Labour MP for Hales Owen. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. OK, now joining us is GB News Chief Political Correspondent Catherine Forster. Catherine, a lot to unpack on what we saw and heard today. Obviously, we can't ask any questions still.
No, it's very annoying because 5 weeks ago when he launched his local election campaign, he was very happy to talk to me for GB News about immigration, actually. I think the fact that he is MP for Makerfield will keep his mind focused, because I said, do you get people's concerns? And he said, oh, yes, I have heard it again and again and again. He will have heard that for the whole campaign. But straight after he won the by-election and I was there, the press were kettled behind metal barriers. We couldn't get near him. He disappeared off, and then the following morning at the rally, he was chased by press, again, wouldn't speak, and no questions today, which I think is very, very disappointing. But I think more broadly, it reminded me quite a lot of Boris Johnson with levelling up. And I think that a lot of people, we don't know how it will go or if it'll be successful, but the fact is that we've got one of the most geographically unequal countries, certainly in Europe, where we've got London and the southeast doing very, very well indeed, and things, he feels, wealth and opportunity hasn't been spread, and I think that is inarguable. But of course, whether putting a bit of number 10 in the north, whether devolving power will work or not, we don't know. But it reminds me of the sort of take back control. The Brexit vote was about taking control from the European Union, saying we know better how to run our own country, thank you very much, than the European Union. And his argument is, well, local people, local elected politicians know better about what their areas need than a whole load of very distant people in Whitehall. And I think we can all agree that things do not work very well in Whitehall and Westminster at the moment. But how this will pan out, we just don't know, do we? Especially as there's no money.
Talking of Whitehall, I think we've got a little clip of Andy Burnham directly after he addressed the faithful and a few journalists in Manchester.
Yeah, this was shot by our very own Christopher Hope, our political editor, just capturing Andy Burnham there, scurrying out the back of the museum where he gave the speech, avoiding the media, not taking any questions, not going out the front exit there, but getting into a car sort of behind closed doors that Christopher Hope has clearly managed to discover and sneak away to. It isn't a particularly good indication that he's going to be open and generous with his time, rather than just giving a pre-written, scripted speech and then rushing off.
Yeah, it's a bit worrying. And the girl that you just saw got in the car with him, I think, I have my eyes, that's good enough, was Grace Pritchard. Now, she has been loaned as a sort of great comms person, which she is, from Ed Miliband's team. Now, Ed Miliband is I mean, I was talking to Kemi Badenoch for GB News just a little bit earlier, and she was basically saying, look, I've got no problem with Andy Burnham, but she very clearly has a big problem with Ed Miliband, who many people think is the front runner to be Chancellor, not least because Ed Miliband was one of the first cabinet ministers to go to Sir Keir Starmer and say you need to set out a timetable for leaving. Also, some suggestions that Andy Burnham feels that he owes him, and Ed Miliband does get things done, like him or not, but if he is appointed, I think there will be real concerns. The markets won't like it. Even the unions, like Sharon Graham of Unite, has said that Ed Miliband as Chancellor would put a noose around the neck of employers. So a big decision he's got to make. And he said then he's not going to announce who's going to be in his cabinet for some time. So we could be looking at him literally becoming Prime Minister and us only finding out in 3 weeks' time.
Goodness me.
Interesting. And we suspect when he was doing that scurrying into the car, Tom, he was scurrying into the car to come back down to, oh yeah, that there London.
Yeah, interesting. Well, lots more to come on this as well. Thank you very much indeed, Catherine Forster, for bringing us that. Now, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more coming up on today's programme.
Yes, a major inquiry says England's education system is failing white working-class children and calls for once-in-a-generation reform. But are they? We'll debate that after the break.
And breaking news from Germany this very afternoon. 5 people have been killed in a shooting in the town of Stade. A suspect has been detained and police are working to try to establish a motive.
Yeah, all of that and much more to come. This is a GB News, a Britain's news channel. We'll see you soon.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray,
Are you a human trafficker?
boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. At 22 minutes past 2, we're going to go back to that breaking news out of Germany.
Yeah, police say 5 people have died following a shooting in the northern German town of Stade.
Well, GB News national reporter Will Godley is here with the very latest. And Will, what more do we know?
Well, so this shooting took place in Stade earlier this afternoon, and that's a place probably most people watching, listening, won't have heard of. It's a small town about 35 miles away from Hamburg, home to about 50,000 people. Police saying that the shooting took place on Dankerstrasse in a youth facility, a youth welfare facility that local media say also is home to mother and children groups. So you can see here a map on your screens of where Stade is in Germany. And the scene we've seen videos of this afternoon is that this is an incredibly quiet road. It doesn't look like it's a very busy, populous part of the town. It's just a quiet scene on a quiet back street. And the scene there this afternoon full of police activity as they're dealing with this shooting. A number of people there in forensic suits. Here we go. That's on your screens now. A number of cars parked there. Police asked anybody in the area to stay out of the area as they continue their investigations. Police have said that there were 5 deaths in this shooting, all of them adults, but they don't yet have a number for the number of people injured in this shooting that they say took place in, as I say, a youth welfare institution. They have now made 2 arrests as part of their investigations. They say that includes the alleged shooter, who's been described as a male, but they also say that there's a second suspect in all of this. They don't know what their role has been. They say that's unclear at this stage, but they are investigating that and also investigating a motive. That, at this stage, is not yet clear, but the police have said there's no danger to the public. There are no other suspects, but their questions really will be what the motive was, who the suspects are, what their background was, and what were the sequence of events that led to this shooting taking place at a facility that houses mother and children groups, where 5 people have died. Of course, mass shootings in Germany are pretty rare. They have very strict gun laws. So this will no doubt shock a huge number of people in Germany and in Europe. And the police now have an investigation on their hands into exactly what the circumstances are.
And from those scenes we're seeing, it looks like it's just a very, very quiet, sunlit suburban street, doesn't it?
Really, really
okay.
strange.
Yeah, Will, thank you so much for that. OK, now let's go to Germany and host of the Mad in Germany podcast, James Jackson. James, do you have any more information on this for us?
Hi there. Well, your reporter described the scene very well. I would say that there has been eyewitness reports of a man and a woman driving off from outside the clinic while the car was being shot at. There were about 10 to 15 shots from police, according to an eyewitness, who spoke to the Focus magazine, and effectively we don't know. There's also been a warning that the number of deaths could rise. So right now it's 5 confirmed deaths with further injuries, but it sounds like those injuries are severe enough that the police are warning that people are in, critical condition or have potentially life-threatening illnesses. So, of course, this is going to be a huge shock to the people of Stade, which is just a small town in Niedersachsen, which, frankly, I hadn't even heard of. And this being a mother-baby clinic seems to raise questions of, was this some kind of revenge attack and aggrieved parents, perhaps? But we don't know anything yet, and we're still waiting for news from the police who are on the ground, as you can see on the screen. But ultimately, this is going to be a huge shock, not just for Stade, but also for Germany. We've in this country, we've had a lot of recent car attacks, which I've covered on your show, where people drive cars into crowds, whether those are terrorists or mentally ill lone wolves. It's been a tough time for Germany the last few years, with more violence than has been normal in the past, as it's usually quite a calm and safe place to live.
And that's what's so jarring about some of the scenes that we're looking at on our screens now, just how quiet and suburban this neighbourhood looks like. A small town, as you say, not well known in Germany at all. But also this slightly concerning element that you've just explained, a mother and child, a mother and baby sort of service that seems to be attacked here.
Absolutely. I mean, you almost couldn't think of a worse place to attack other than potentially a school. The police have said that all of the 5 dead are adults, but we don't know about further injuries, whether they've actually been done to babies, to young children who are in there. So people are really bracing for the worst, I think. you know, the worst has already happened, but the situation could actually get even worse. It's sad to say.
And James, part of the, aside from the mother and baby unit, there's a youth welfare institution. What is that?
I think it's that we're talking about the same thing here, and youth welfare institution is kind of German police speak for the mother-baby centre.
Right.
So when I first read it, I thought youth welfare institution, it might be, you know, a youth centre where kids, teenagers are hanging out, but actually all of the reporting I've seen points towards it being somewhere where mothers and, you know, parents take their young children to look after them, that kind of thing. So ultimately, more details will come out, I'm sure, in the course of the next few hours. But really, I think the fact that as well, they are having 2 arrests is quite notable, because typically when you have this kind of violent act, there's usually just one perpetrator, whether they are cases where there have been 2 in the past, you might assume terrorism, and that's the first thing that I thought when I saw 2 arrests. But actually, with the eyewitness report that there was a man and a woman in the car. The shooter was a man, and according to media reports, and you know, the police were shooting at them. They said that there's no danger for the people. There's been 2 arrests made, so presumably those 2 people have been arrested in the car as they were attempting to drive off. But you know, whatever the motivations were, we don't want to speculate too much, but it's clearly a very shocking time for the people of Stade and Germany more widely, as these kind of violent acts become, sadly, tragically more common.
James, just very quickly and finally, do we know if Germany's version of the counter-terrorism police are involved in this?
I haven't seen reports from that yet. I think the way it works here is that local police will give a press conference. Local police are deployed first, but after that, it might go up to counter-terrorism, but that does take a little bit of time. And I wouldn't be surprised if it just stayed with the local police, if they have said that there's no more danger to the public. They've asked members of the public to avoid the area, but have said there's no more danger. So it seems like they think they've got the people involved, and there's no further danger. So it's unlikely, I would say, that it's terrorists, but we still have to wait and see, of course.
Yeah, well, we'll hear more from the police, I suppose, over the course of the day. But for now, James Jackson, thanks indeed for joining us, host of the Mad in Germany podcast.
Yeah, and of course, if we hear any more information, we'll bring it to you. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's lots more coming up on today's show, all after the latest news headlines.
Thank you both and good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. 5 people have been killed after a shooting near a youth centre in Germany. 2 suspects have been detained, but the motive remains unclear. Andy Burnham has promised to give the UK a new direction and fix what he called a fragmented and disjointed Westminster. In his first major speech since announcing he's running for Labour leadership, he set out plans for the biggest transfer of power out of Whitehall in modern times. Children's mental health services in England are in crisis, with more than 1 million young people affected in a single year. The top reason for referrals is anxiety. The Royal Navy is ditching plans for a new generation of destroyers in favour of drone command ships to deal with growing Russian threats in the Atlantic. It's part of the new defence investment plan due to be announced within days. And the capital of Venezuela has been hit by another 4.6 magnitude aftershock, just a week on from twin quakes that struck the country. The number of people believed to be dead is now in the region of 1,500. Those are your latest headlines. Sophia Hill will have a full roundup for you at 3 o'clock.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Well, Thank you, Bethany. Lots more coming up on today's programme.
Yes, a major inquiry says England's education system is failing white working-class children and calls for once-in-a-generation reform. But will we get it? We'll be debating that one next.
All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Warm sunshine for many of us through today. Not quite as hot as it has been lately, but certainly still warm in the sunshine. Plenty of dry weather around too. That's thanks to high pressure. The Azores high down to the south of the UK, bringing its influence to much of central and southern areas. Further north and west, low pressure is approaching to bring some spells of rain through this afternoon. So showery outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland and western Scotland through this afternoon. Elsewhere, sunny spells, quite a lot more cloud than we would have seen over the weekend, but still some warm sunshine, particularly in the south and in the east, where temperatures will be in the low, possibly mid-20s. So pretty close to average for the time of year, but still pretty warm in the sunshine, and it's still quite strong this time of year. Still get high UV levels with cloud cover too. Showers will push into more northwestern areas throughout this evening, turning a little bit heavier than they will have been through today. It is going to be quite a mild night tonight with plenty of cloud around, but a wet one too for more western areas. You can see that rain pushing into parts of the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland later on today. Some showers as well pushing into the southwest. They're going to be quite light at first, just quite a bit more cloud approaching from the west through the first part of the night. But I think many western and northern areas will see some rain by tomorrow morning, particularly across the north and west. You can see those heavier bursts of rain wrapped around that area of low pressure. Also see strengthening winds across more western areas. So a bit of a breezier start to the day in the west. Another quite mild start though in the east, in particular temperatures 17 or 18 degrees as a minimum tonight, so warmer than it was last night. Then through Tuesday morning, outbreaks of rain continue for many western and northern areas. Some quite strong westerly winds, particularly across western coasts. Probably quite a bright start across the east, but that rain may push in there into the evening, but it will be feeling rather warm with highs of 25 degrees across the east. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. A broken down vehicle is restricting the A9 north of Aberystwyth. On the A4232 northbound from St Fagans to the M4 junction 33 at Capel Llanil turn, heavy congestion is causing delays. M6 southbound in Cheshire East has one of 4 lanes closed between junctions 17 and 16 due to a collision. Drivers on the M25 anti-clockwise in Kent between junction 3 and 2 face congestion with 20-minute delays. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast is running a reduced service on various routes, while Gatwick Express is disrupted between Purley and East Croydon. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Oh, good afternoon, Britain. It's 36 minutes past 2.
You didn't expect to do that bit of work, did you?
No, it says dawn at the top there.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can identify.
That's
it's
true.
fine.
Yeah, we could swap blazers.
Dawn actually suits you.
Gosh.
Any case, an independent inquiry has delivered a stark warning saying England's education system is simply not set up to serve white working-class children and their families.
Well, the report calls for a once-in-a-generation reform after finding that they're now the lowest-performing large demographic in the entire school system.
So we're asking, have white working-class children simply been failed by the system?
Well, let's find out what our guests think. We're joined by the former Conservative MP Nick Fletcher and the political commentator Fahima Mohammed. Nick, we'll start with you. Is there a particular problem for white working-class children, or perhaps boys in particular?
Yes, there is. And it's been going on for such a long time now. And there's been report after report after report. And sadly, nothing seems to change. White working class lads, white working class boys in these areas, where I come from, have been left behind. Every single demographic seems to have had somebody to shout up for them, and the white working class lad has just been sat at the back and is actually been told lots of times that it's actually society's problem. And we're just seeing more and more of this all the time. And the outcomes for these young lads is terrible and will continue to be so until someone actually gets hold of this. So great that another report's been done, but if it just gets put on the shelf with the rest of them collecting dust, then it's unfortunately a complete waste of time.
Fahima, what do you think?
I think we need to not confuse correlation with causation. And yes, the facts are there. And we need to understand that the inquiry doesn't conclude that, for example, diversity or DEI is to blame. It identifies poverty, weak early years support, poor literacy, low attendance, mental health challenges, and the lack of vocational opportunities as the key drivers. So it's socioeconomic disadvantages and the lack of opportunity, not just the state deliberately favouring other groups. The state builds the education system, family shapes the home environment, communities shape opportunity, and young people make choices within those circumstances. Success or failure is really rarely down to one factor alone. So for example, if we're going to look at factors like attendance, we're going to look at factors as parents reading with their children, stable home life, expectations around education, and adverse childhood experiences. Now, these things are the things that we need to obviously also, understand that there is individual responsibility, family environment as well. So, and even some targeted programs exist for particular barriers, but there's no evidence of this inquiry that these programs are a reason for white working class children to have poorer educational outcomes. So correlation isn't causation.
Nick, what do you say to that?
I think there's an awful lot of truth in that, yes. I mean, family life is completely different for so many people to what it used to be 30, 40 years ago. We've got a real issue with absent dads. We've got an issue with, obviously, lots of parents working an awful lot of hours, maybe not having as much time as they'd want for their children. But school did used to pick up some of these pieces, and unfortunately, there's that many different things that the schools have to do these days. It's children are losing out at both ends, so they're losing out at home and they're losing out at school. I mean, schools just keep having to pick up the slack all the time, and unfortunately, it's actually the situation just gets worse because the more parents rely on the state, unfortunately, the more the state will continue to have to keep on doing. And this is something that's got to be addressed. So I completely agree with home life is #1 priority. Keeping dads at home, getting kids with the parents, getting them off the phones, reading with them, doing all these kinds of things is a wonderful thing to do. But also when schools see that there's issues at home, they should be able to pick up some of this slack.
I can't agree with that more, and certainly parenting we need to concentrate as well in this. But if it is just down to poverty, Fahima, why is it sort of like, white working class, mostly boys, are still being outperformed by black working class lads? What is it about the white boys that are bottom of the class, literally?
I think it could be some sort of cultural differences with regards to education expectation, because when it comes to minorities, the expectation for education, the majority of them do have a higher pressure within family to perform, with higher education.
Are you sure that's true of all minorities?
Not really, because again, it also shows, like I said, it's a link between sort of poverty, class, as well as the cultural. And I think when people are from the poverty-stricken backgrounds, they still will strive harder because of that family sort of expectation. So then there is some sort of support and motivation within those poverty-stricken families. Whereas maybe if you're making a direct, comparison there, that would be the only thing I would sort of say as, because there is a cultural difference with education, and minorities seem to want to achieve higher and more, and they do tend to end up in higher education. My son, I just dropped him off today because he's finished his GCSE in one of the top grammar schools which he's been considered for, and when he went there, the demographic is majority of brown and black people. So again, the achievement, even if they come into this country at a very later stage, they higher achievement and the expectation for those children, it's much more with the family pressures and expectation. So even with the lower working class, that happens in, I would say, with the cultural difference. Absolutely.
Nick, would you agree with that? I mean, various studies have proven that sort of like, you know, poor working class black lads are often lacking a father figure in their life. They don't have the encouragement that maybe Asian families have in this. But still, we see them outperforming the white working class boys. So is it just poverty, or is there maybe some DEI issue going on here where we've concentrated on helping young black kids out of our educational difficulties, but at the cost of the young white kids?
I think, yeah, there's bound to be some truth in that. As I said at the beginning of this piece, there's nobody been shouting up for white working class lads. We've had this Girl Can campaigns going out there lots of time. I've got a son and a daughter, so I've seen it from both sides. And there's nobody shouting up for these young lads. Obviously, DEI has had a huge issue with it. There's been racism over the years. There's been all kinds of different issues. And these issues have needed addressing with. But what I tend to find is, I mean, I've been asking for a minister for men and boys now for the past 8 years. I think it's desperate that we have one. But I think we should have one. And then once we see the outcomes and the white working class lads are doing well again, and boys and men are doing well again, then we don't need to continue down that path. What seems to happen is we seem to have a minister for something, and when they've achieved the goal, they still continue on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And this is what's happened. And so the pendulum swung completely the other way. And white working class lads are just being left behind. And it's completely and utterly wrong.
I disagree with that, sorry. The educational attainment gap existed long before DEI became politically prominent. And this gap didn't suddenly appear in the last 5 years. White working class underachievement has been documented for decades under Labour coalition, Conservative governments alike. So the challenge, of claiming that DEI, explains the problem is absolutely incorrect. And there's no evidence of that at all.
There's no evidence,
There's no evidence of that at all.
I think we're not going to have a bout of consensus there, Nick. I'm so sorry. We started with you, we finished with Fahima. We're going to have you both back to thrash this out further, but thank you both indeed for joining us and beginning to talk through this.
Yes, indeed. But do let us know what you think about that one at gbnews.com/your say. Okay, this is Good Afternoon Britain. On GBNews, there's lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, Prince Harry says he's still trying to find a way back to bring his children back to Britain safely. In a new statement, the Duke of Sussex insists that the issue isn't where he stays, but the level of security provided throughout his visits to Britain.
But if you are travelling yourself, unlike Harry, potentially, in search of maybe some holiday sun, here's a forecast for some of those top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The very hot weather in Western Europe is moving into the east and towards the Mediterranean, towards Italy as well as Greece through this next few days. Reasonably warm across the Canary Islands, 32 degrees for Tenerife on Tuesday. Temperatures close to the lower 30s across Portugal, Spain and France. But for Italy and Greece, the high 30s approaching 40 degrees through the next few days, which brings with it a risk of thundery downpours. And that risk continues well into next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The final preparations before a world first. At RAF Wittering in Cambridgeshire, these JCB mechanics and engineers are attempting to rewrite history, chasing a world land speed record with a hydrogen car. The JCB Hydromax puts out 1,600 horsepower, powered entirely by 2 hydrogen-fuelled internal combustion engines. The 32-foot-long vehicle is trying to beat JCB's existing record, which was achieved with a diesel engine back in 2006. It reached a speed of over 350 miles an hour. For chairman of JCB Lord Bamford, the new car is about pushing the boundaries of new technology.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Father's Day has long been a fixture in the family calendar.
But as household budgets remain under pressure, some are questioning whether the tradition of buying gifts is beginning to fade. Jim Cox has worked in the gift-giving industry for more than 30 years and says Father's Day simply isn't the draw it once was.
We're kind of reliant on the big gifting period. Father's Day is probably the weakest of like the bigger gifting events. It's picked up a bit this week, but probably not as much as I would expect. And I think generally people, like average basket size isn't really where I'd want it either. So I think people are spending a bit less, being a bit careful, and also thinking general trend in gifting is thinking maybe about experiences and spending time with people.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
What does it do for people who are wounded, injured or sick veterans? What does it do for them to do this sort of voyage on this wonderful sailing ship?
Good morning. It is that human impact, and that's why Turn to Starboard exists, and even at the Invictus Games Birmingham 2027. It's about giving people maybe a reset, maybe seeing, taking that breath, but also a bit of camaraderie as well. Literally everybody's in the same boat. The blue environment is completely different. Everything is different on a boat. Walking, sitting down, making a cup of tea, even going to the loo is slightly different. So it can give people a break from sort of the pressures of life.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Coming up to 10 to 3.
And we're talking royals. Prince Harry says he still wants his children to spend time in the UK, but insists security remains the biggest obstacle. A spokesman for Harry has said the issue isn't where the family stays, but whether proper protection is provided throughout their visit. They also claim an independent security review has yet to take place.
Well, GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker joins us now. So what does this row boil down to? What has changed since the Duke of Sussex said he was going to bring his kids over?
Well, do you know what? This is a very quickly developing situation with lots of different sides here, but let's just I'm basically going to have to provide some context, I'm afraid, because it's a little bit complicated. But basically, when somebody comes to the UK who's either of high profile or deemed a risk, there is some
We're celebrating a golden summer with a terrific two-part Great British giveaway. First, you could win a sensational £60,000 in tax-free cash. And that's not all, as you'll also win our most precious prize to date, a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Harwood. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. I'm going to do now, they are throwing things up the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we